Welcome to another great show tonight with Marcia Weeks. And what a pleasure it is for me to be back again with you this Monday evening, co hosting with my wonderful friend, my great colleague, Heather. Heather, just say hello for them this evening and just welcome them this evening. Please go right ahead.
Good night, everyone. I hope that you are having a wonderful
I'm not hearing
evening.
you.
You're not
Your
hearing
mic is
me?
on. Let me
It
make sure it's not me.
is. My mic is on. Can everyone hear me? Anyone hear me? Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Can anyone hear me?
That's very strange. Okay, my mic is working great.
Hello, can you hear me?
And for some reason, I'm not hearing. Okay, but you go right ahead, Heather. You go right ahead. I think it might be on my side.
Okay.
I'll try and sort this
Okay.
out.
Yes, Adrian can hear me. Thank you very much, Adrian. So pleasant good evening to everyone from the not so sunny New York. It is coming up to Thanksgiving and it is getting darker earlier than before. Previously, when we started the show, the sun was be shining brightly when I entered, but it is not that way anymore. So I wish that I was in sunny Barbados enjoying a much longer evening time. So again, a pleasant good evening to everyone. We have 73 persons with us. And so please like and share the video so that we can get pushed up into the algorithm so that many more people will be able to see us. And we have Reverend Dr. Ferdinand Nichols, and he is having a bit of technical difficulties. So he should be back on as soon as possible. And I see that we have lots of regulars here. We have Hurricane Writer. We have Adrian. I have Christopher Lowe. And I can see Green Thumb. Also CG. And Remain 6070. Pauline Maynard, Lisa Cox, and Justice and Heather Cliff, just to name a few. So, greetings, everyone, and once again, welcome to the show. This evening, we have a program lined up for everyone that will be educational, and you will be able to learn a lot of information regarding to what is happening currently in Barbados. And before we start with the that part of the program, we want to give a brief review of the People's Parliament, the Roadside Parliament that was held yesterday. And if you were in attendance yesterday at the show, can you please indicate by putting in the chat, I was there? It would be nice to see how many people who actually are with us every evening that attended the show. I myself was not able to attend, as you know that I am here, but I listened into the majority of it. And we do have Reverend Nichols back on again. Can you
I
hear us? We can
think
hear you.
think you should be able to hear me, and I can hear you.
Wonderful, wonderful.
I have overcome that technological up, and the old people used to say monkey handling guns. So I guess it's very.
All
Charles
right.
says he was there. Great, Charles, and good evening to everyone. Good evening. Good evening, Remy, and good evening to you, Charles and Mark. Yeah, thank you, Mark, for being there. Good night. Yeah, sorry, Tracy Barrow. Yes, thank you, Tracy. You were there as well. Wonderful, wonderful. Pete Way, good to have you with us. Nice to have us again this evening. Welcome, and Green Thumb. Okay, Green Thumb and uh, well, Yard. Good night to you too. So nice to see so many of you all that were there. Yeah, it was a tremendous night, and I must say, I felt so honored to be a part of it last night. Pete, you watched it online. Great. Yeah, I thought it was a tremendous start, especially Kemar. Heather was remarkable. Really nothing short of excellent. And what a tremendous man. And I said yes last night, if we could get 100 young people like Kemar, I tell you, our country would be in great hands in the future. We just need to have some more young people like that, and like him. Of course, Caswell, always quite frank and to the point, and highly. It was a great evening, And Heather, when we finished, I was just amazed. People expressed their appreciation for the information. People are hearing things that they were not aware of, and I'm mindful, Heather, of the criticism that we get, because the fact of the matter is that information is decentralized. It's not under the control of government or anybody.
That I love as well.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You I know they would like to restrict information, because you can see the world is trying to do that. To censor everything. You can't use a word here on YouTube, although I should tell Marcia it might be okay now, because so many people are using it on YouTube now. They haven't taken down it.
All right, we won't use it though. We won't use it.
No, I'm going to resist that tonight.
All right.
And maybe just mention about being stuck or something like that. I don't know, but it was really wonderful, because
You
information.
are going.
You're
Oh,
losing.
in and out, in and out.
It might be my head. Might be my
It could
head.
be.
Right.
It could
You
be.
keep hearing it, let me know, and I'll see if I can switch to something else to use. It
Okay.
it might be my headset needs additional charging. Let me charge it, and if you see, that will help. If that will things up for us. Um, Come hard.
No, no.
Yes.
I think it's still the same. But wait. So while you tweak it, I will inform persons about what I liked about the show last night.
Okay.
What I liked in particular was that after the deliveries, there was a panel, and the panel answered questions from the audience who had questions to ask. And it was quite good. And I am glad that it was done, so because people had a forum where they could ask their questions and that they could have been given feedback. And unlike what the government is doing now with these parish discussions or whatever, they decide who will speak. But anybody could have spoken last night at the meeting. They were given that opportunity. So that is something that we must continue and expand on it as well. And I was quite pleased that the gentleman who got up and spoke about the prices of food, that he brought that to light then, because sometimes you get so accustomed to the way that things are that you seem to take it for granted and accept it as normal. But he reminded everyone that the prices of food in Barbados is not normal. They are astronomical, and that they can easily be reduced. But the government is doing nothing. The price control department, I think that may still be the name, or the name may have changed. They have responsibility to change and to reduce food prices in Barbados, as long as the Prime Minister says so, but she has done nothing. So the prices of food remain high, and that benefits the merchants and absolutely no other person. So it puts more money in their pockets, and the people suffer. And also, go ahead.
Absolutely correctly. Are you hearing me good now? Are you getting me
Yes,
good? Okay,
definitely.
wonderful. And I'm hearing you. Wonderful. So it was that headset I was using. You're absolutely correct, Heather. prices can come down in Barbados. There's a possibility that that could happen. I'm not going to call it certain names, but I do know that one of the major food suppliers in Barbados has a division in Florida. That division in Florida purchases food from all over the United States of America for the Barbados destination, and their local arm, so to speak, purchases from them in the United States at a profit to them in the US, and then they ship it to Barbados, and another profit is added on top of that on arrival in Barbados after duties and taxes. So you have a company that is actually making two levels of profit, one in the US and one in Barbados, right? And the other thing is that, when the current government was in opposition, they opposed the increase of the VAT from 15 to 17.5%, to the best of my knowledge. And one would have thought that coming to office, they would have sought to reduce the VAT. We've seen prime ministers and changes of government do this before, reduce cost factors and so on that way, in terms of abolishing certain taxes and so on. And nothing has been done. It has quietly remained at 17.5%, even though they opposed it when they were in the opposition. And Heather, this is the thing that I find absolutely disgusting, and I really am offended by the what I call derogatory and, to be brutally frank, nasty remarks of the representative for I think St. James North, the member part of St. James North, Edward HINKSON, and I know Edmund quite well, and in terms of his criticism of the people who are critical of the Child Protection Bill, it was very disingenuous, calling people right wingers and talking about how we are trying to hijack the bill. That is rubbish. That is absolute rubbish. Nobody's trying to hijack the bill. We have concerns, and as citizens, we have a right to express concerns. What I'm hearing from these parliamentarians is that their arrogance is so overwhelming that they don't feel anybody has a right to oppose them and say anything or to criticize them about anything. And the moment you open your mouth, you are foolish. Somebody describing such notions as foolishness. We are expressing a concern about our children, and he has the audacity to talk nonsense about our expressions of concern being foolishness. And I really take offense to those remarks, and I'm going to call upon people in Barbados to rise up and express themselves. Do not allow yourself to be intimidated by any member of government or any prime minister. Right back down. If you have a concern, voice it.
Before we leave this topic about food prices, from the time Barbados's inception as a slave colony, we have had merchants bringing food from the UK and possibly Canada and so on to Barbados. And we have never as a people, joined forces with each other to import food. And if there is a thing that I would like to see come out of this movement, is that we form an importation base or something to the effect that we, the people, can have cheaper food in Barbados. We must form something. We cannot let this keep happening. It has been happening from time immemorial, and we can't let it continue happening and not do anything about it. And this is the 21st century. There is nothing to prevent a pool of people joining their resources together, importing food into Barbados, and to have it sold to members, so to speak. I remember that I had heard that it is one of the churches usually have, it could be the close brethren or one of them, have their own warehouse and so on, and they don't buy food from the merchants in Bridgetown. They're bringing everything into Barbados that they consume. So there is absolutely no reason why this cannot be done, especially for food. And people get food at cheaper prices without these 1,000% markups and so on is absolutely ridiculous. And I remember you stated yesterday that you have contacts with someone in Brazil.
Yes.
That you can bring in cheaper food. So there's absolutely no reason why we, the people, cannot form an organization to import food for ourselves. So that is something
Heather,
that needs to happen.
I thought that was one of the things behind the cooperative movement, where the cooperatives could get together and form their own people's market. There's a supermarket in Barbados called the People's Market on Tudor Bridge, I think it is, which was formerly R.L. Seal and Company. And a true people's market is where the people really control the processes of what go on there. And it would be wonderful if I served in many years ago when I actually left my job and went to work for the People's Cathedral. I actually went to work for the People's Cathedral's cooperative, because at that time the People's Cathedral had formed a cooperative, and I was the manager of the mini mart. They had a mini mart there, and we used to purchase food and sell at significantly reduced markups, just in terms of covering administrative costs. And a lot of people, Friday nights was always a full night at the mini mart at the People's Cathedral. It would be wonderful if you could get a pool of people like you're suggesting, even if it could be, if you want to stretch it to say that it could be cooperatives that come together, or maybe one of the larger cooperatives establish its own supermarket for the people, just to get established its own financial sector for the people, and food can be accessed a lot cheaper. I don't know if you remember. I don't know if you remember last night I mentioned about a couple in St. Lucia.
Yes. I think we should do it for ourselves, that we should start.
Mhm.
We should start it for ourselves, because the other co-ops are already established, and they may not want people coming in to tell them what to do. So it's better to start an effort on our own. We know a problem, we have a solution, and we can try to put it to work.
Yeah. That couple I spoke about in St. Lucia, they're not filthy rich people or anything. They were now really opening up, not really opening up because of the pandemic, and of course a couple of hurricanes that struck St. Lucia. They were now kind of restoring their situation in St. Lucia, and they met with me, spoke with me. I put them in contact with the company in Brazil, and they're just sent off their first order. And their intention is to provide an alternative against the MASSY group in St. Lucia. And I must tell you the truth, I was in St. Lucia, Heather, and if you think prices in Barbados expensive, you should go to St. Lucia, because even it's in the EC dollars, but we must remember that St. Lucians don't work for the level of salaries that we do. And so when you go into the conversion rates and you look at the cost of things in St. Lucia, because I was looking to buy a few things in St. Lucia to come back, and I came back with very little, if anything at all, because the prices when I translated back from EC just didn't make sense to me to buy it, because I could probably either get it just as expensive or a little less expensive here in Barbados. So St. Lucia is very expensive as well. But I think one of the things that the government could do, but the government seems to be not open to suggestions and criticisms, because we have an MP in a joint St. James constituency meeting. Pete, I saw the comment you made, but my understanding is that it was a joint meeting of all the constituencies, and it hardly had anybody in it, but I'll leave that subject for another time. But when you get people like him making the kind of comments that they're making, when people are raising genuine concerns about matters, it tells me right off the bat that these people are simply not interested in hearing anything, because at the end of the day, he makes his statement, for example, that we're going to pass the bill. That's what he's saying. We're going to pass the bill. So who gives a farthing what you have to say? All that this consultation is a aspect of theatrics and antics and all that kind of stuff. Just so that the people can't say that we didn't talk to them. But they intend to pass the bill as it is. And listen, he highlights the fact, and I'm not getting away from food, I'm just pointing to the attitude of the individuals, because he represents what the party is representing. He has the audacity to talk about the fact that we're going to pass the bill because it should have been passed a long time ago. And it is required that we comply with the legislation in conformity with the United Nations Declaration on human rights. Yeah, we know about that, but there are areas relative to our culture, relative to our country, that we have a concern about. And to think that,
Exactly.
yeah, and to think that we are expressing a concern on food prices and asking the government to look at what they can do to bring the prices of food down. If you can reduce the duties and those kind of things for electric cars that are expensive, that the majority of people in Barbados cannot buy, then you should be able to reduce the duties on food and so on here in Barbados. And Heather, I don't know when you were last here, but if you go into the supermarket and you look at the prices of things like broccoli, asparagus, um, garlic, and all those different kinds of things, people will be more prone to buy the junk food because they simply can't afford to be buying healthy food. It is so expensive. And when I raised this with some of the merchants, I remember one day I was somewhere and there was a container being offloaded of fruit, and I raised the question with the importer, and the importer looked straight at me. He said, "You should look at the duties on these things. Don't criticize us only for our markets, but look at the duties." So if the government wants to, if you look at the increase in shipping, for example, Heather, that has gone through the roof. So there must be some adjustments made if you're going to help in bringing the cost of things down. So if the government is making 50% on a container importation 3 or 4 years ago, and container prices have shot up through the air, 50% is going to be an astronomically higher figure. So you could help reduce the cost by bringing that duty down so that there would be a little more, you know what I'm saying? A
Hmm.
little more of that kind of stuff.
I have found, right, that our lives, our lifestyle of the black people in Barbados were formed during slavery. I always go back to that point. So it defines
Hmm.
everything that happens in Barbados. And
Yes.
we were consumers. We didn't make things to eat in Barbados, really. Everything came in from outside. All we did was produce sugar when it became popular and shipped it out. And even things like simple things like salted fish. You live on an island that is surrounded by the sea, and people imported salted fish. And up to this day, they're still doing it.
Well, you
Um,
remember, you remember it was who it was again? Carmita Frazier. You remember
mhm.
Carmita? Carmita was trying to encourage Barbadians to not only grow more local food, but also to use more local product. You know, the yams and the. You
Yes,
remember
yes.
when she introduced the
Mhm.
potato, the cream, the potato packaged,
Right.
and
Yes.
ready and that kind of thing. So she was looking to try to encourage us to do all that kind of thing, which it would be really important for us to engage even now.
Right. So I really want us, everyone in the audience, I really would like you to think about becoming part of a food cooperative that this movement could possibly bring into action, because it would be beneficial to all of you. And if you encourage more people to come on board, the merchants will have to take note. And we can do it because the people in Barbados who have nothing or have a little are the majority. And as the Reverend rightly says, when the people stand up, the politicians have to sit down. And we
Yeah, they
can
have to stop
get
playing the game.
done. We can. We can.
Yeah,
Um,
you're absolutely right, Heather. You're absolutely correct. I see Caswell is in the room. We want to welcome him. I know he'll turn his
he's
camera
not
on
right. He's
at,
not
at,
ready
at
yet.
some
He's not
point. Yeah,
ready.
not ready yet, but we'll officially welcome him. Yes, correct, Natasha. Yes, we can do this. You're absolutely correct. Um, all of this, somebody says here, but where's all this tax money going to potholes in a rum British will soon swallow the vehicle's whole. I am a recipient of a smashed tire and suspension and lights on one of my cars. I had that cost me nearly $10,000. The rim alone, Heather, was $2,400. The headlight, because of the type of light it was nearly $4,000, and the tire was nearly
Wow.
$1,400. And it was a Mazda. It wasn't a BMW or a Jaguar or Audi or any of those. It was a Mazda that I had. We don't even want to get into that, to be honest with you, because
Okay.
I know Kemar will be coming on later, and we need an explanation as to where that $80 million a month that is being raised from the sewage tax is going, and what's happening to it, and who is it going to, and where is it being placed, and how is it being used, But you're absolutely correct. If we could get people to come together and form a co-op, so to speak, like a cooperative
Shipping for
mini mart,
shipping and
or
importing. Right.
yeah, but I would even go past that, because if we just handle shipping and importing, I can tell you that the people who are already monopolistic in the country and they want to buy from us. So we could as well open up something of our own, so that the people of
Exactly.
Barbados could
Yes.
come and shop at their market. This is
Yep.
the people's market.
Yep.
I know, I'm telling you, because I went to several of them, and we haven't had any responses, to the best of my knowledge, because the people in Brazil keep me informed as soon as anybody reaches out to them. There are a couple of other Caribbean countries that we've sent the information to as well. And so hopefully we can see it come together.
And I'm right here in the US. Miami is not very far away, which is a main shipping hub for the Caribbean, and New York
Correct.
as well. Right. I will do my best. If people are interested, there's no reason why it cannot happen.
And actually, my wife is the following. She's in Colorado right now, ministering there in Colorado for the next couple of months with a family that's been through a really critical life-saving experience for their lives. And she is looking forward to, through our ministry, to get people to send in all kinds of things, food and all the kinds of things that she can. When she returns, she intends to set something up, with our connections in terms of churches and so on in the States, to let them donate, and send things into Barbados. So we'll see what can come out of that when she returns.
Right.
So,
And where we realize that we cannot depend on the government. So what you can do or what we can do on our own, we must push ahead and
yes,
do. It will be for our best benefit.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think we really have to push back. I take serious offense, Heather. This is the year 2023. Politics must change in this country. And the only people who are going to get that done are the people. Clearly, the politicians don't want to upset the apple cart. They want to maintain the status quo, and they want to dictate to people what goes on. But I am looking forward to the people standing up and saying, enough is enough. We will not tolerate this any further. We are going to change the whole political landscape in Barbados.
Right. If people change the economy with their purchasing power, the system will change, because we
Yeah,
will not need the politicians. They will need us. We don't have to give
correct,
them
correct,
vote.
correct. Would be great to see more. Is it? I think there was a gathering of produce suppliers called Barvin or something like that, that used to come together somewhere down on the Spring Garden. Well, it's not the Spring Garden anymore. I don't recall what it is now, because names are changing so fast. I don't even
Grinder
remember the names of everything.
Highway,
Um, the
the Mighty Grinder
Sorry,
Highway one.
Might Grinder Highway. Yeah. Um, I'm from the old school, so I gotta get with the new school. Um, and I don't know how many people, in the last several marches, I have observed how many small produce businesses line Cheapside, left and right, and you can go there and you can pick up your vegetables and so on. You don't have to go and shop for those things in the supermarket. But unfortunately, a lot of them have to buy from the main importers and from the main suppliers. So you're still back to square one in a sense,
Yes.
where they're having to purchase from the MASSYs, the Spring Garden Foods, the main importers, the apples and different things, the oranges and so on. There was an attempt to do that several years ago in St. Andrew, where we could have grown. I mean, St. Andrew can grow oranges, we can grow pineapples, we can grow watermelons. All of these are things that we can do there, but there is no encouragement because of all the processes that we have really been weaponized, if you want to call it, where agriculture is concerned. Look at how much land Heather's been shifted from agriculture to residential. I mean, some of the best cane fields, and I'm talking about arable land. You remember? I don't know if you were in Barbados when we used to have something called brown skin girls and frozen joys in terms of sugar cane. There were big sugar cane, so big sugar
Okay.
cane, and they were so juicy, Heather, that when you started to suck it, they were soft. And when you started sucking, the juices would run all down your mouth. Now we get some of these half raky things with as big as my finger. That if you buy it from the fellas on the roundabout, you gotta be careful. Otherwise, you can end up having to install false teeth. They're so hard, But all of that good agricultural land is now in residential development right over here in Newberry, just above in Cottage. Some really that's just in my area. That's just in my
Okay.
area.
Nigel, we will ask this question to Kemar. If we need an alien landholding act to protect our agricultural land for food production, he may be the best person, or Caswell,
Yeah.
to answer this question.
Well, we're waiting. There you are, Mr. Caswell, sir. Welcome. Such a pleasure
Good
to
night.
have you with us again tonight.
Good
My goodness.
night.
And
Before we start with Caswell, we have an announcement to make that on Saturday, the 14th of October at 10 a.m. will be March number 7? I think it's.
I tell you, there have been so many. I have lost count of them.
I think
But
it's 6.
it's going to be
6, March number 6.
No.
Okay, and we will put up a flyer and the flyer is there to let everyone know that we will be marching again. The people will be marching until the walls come tumbling down. All right. And
the Jericho March.
Yep. All right. So Mr. Caswell Franklin, our general, as Marcia so nicely coined him, has graced us again with his presence. And I want to let you know how thankful I am, and the audience as well, that you take it upon yourself every night that there's a show to be here. And sometimes we don't give people the credit that they are due, but I want to say thank you for all of your efforts, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bergen. I don't need credit. If you get rid of this government, that's enough reward for me, because they are not acting in the interest of the people of this country. And I'll start by answering Nigel Newton. Barbados needs an alien landholding act now more than ever. Large countries with far more land space than us have alien landholding legislation. Because when you sell our land to non-nationals, all right, it will always remain from generation to generation land owned by non-nationals. Look at the sugar plantations that we're talking about, Codrington and the other estates that they're not in Barbados' hands yet, even 300 years after slavery, still in the Barbados' hands. So if the little bit that we have, we should retain for ourselves and our children when they come up. Now, I know for a fact, Trinidad has alien landholding legislation, and they have far more land than we do. You cannot, as a foreigner, go and buy Trinidad land just like that. In all over the world, I can speak to Bali, part of Indonesia. You can lease the land. You can build a monstrosity on it, whatever you do. But at the end of that 25-year lease, unless the landlord renew it, that is no longer your property. So we need something like this to protect our lands. But we are hearing not only in this administration, previous BLP administration is saying, oh, the land must fetch its highest economic value. This is nonsense, because you have land in Vaucluse. I know Vaucluse well. I grew up running around Vaucluse. There is not a single can of Vaucluse, not a yam, not a sweet potato, not an edo, nothing. Just land. And ever so often you see a field that I used to dig potatoes and yams in, being converted into housing. You had one, and I remember that one where they have the where to do the racing and stuff now. That I dig yams in that ground myself. Nobody tell me I dig yams in that ground. I dig yams in that ground when they were $15 a rod. Now you can imagine just a few people. We have land in St. Peter and a few other places that where they grow yams, but we don't got the places. But we had yams galore when I was a boy. And no, nothing. So sweet potatoes, you name it, they have nothing on that land. The land is now owned by Eastern Land Development. Vaucluse Plantation is owned by Eastern Land Development, and they are ever so often getting permission to convert cane fields, yam grounds, and sell them off. The land on the coast is going to hotels, and just very shortly, because of the rates of land tax, people on the coast won't be able to keep their land, and they will sell it to non-nationals because they want to shut us in, keep us in the interior. You know, in the old days when they don't want the locals go in St. James, you used to tell the fathers, you know what happens if you go down there with you, and they just keep away from down there.
Yes.
Yeah, Freddie would know.
I remember that.
They scared the people from going on there because if you got down there walking straight, we're gonna come back up. Walking
They
that way.
They used to tell us if they drop a coin in St. James, kick it to St. Michael and then pick it up.
You know, so and they used to scare and people were really afraid of that, you know. That's what I'm telling you. This thing is not rolling by Barbados. People were so scared that they wouldn't even want to go to St. James. That was the thing when I was a little boy. All right, but that was to keep the Belgians from the nice land down there and keep them off the beaches, keep them from down there because they want Barbados to be somewhere like Jamaica. There are places in Jamaica now where the government is moving locals, relocating them from the fish landing sites to build hotels for non-nationals, and people have to put their boats now way off from where they used to be and use bicycles and cars or whatever to get to the sites. And Barbados is looking for that now too.
But do you know, Caswell, that even in the Cayman Islands, the Cayman Islands has about 120, 125 different nationalities, and I think it's about 80 square miles. The population is about 80,000. I can't remember how many square miles. It's about half the size of Barbados, 76 square miles or something like that. And even there, they are now, I'll use the expression, rising up concerning the matter of what little land they have in the Cayman Islands being sold to expats. And they're standing up and saying, no, this has to come to an end. And people are suggesting some of the things even there that you're saying. Now, they're half our size. You're talking about somewhere like Trinidad that has so much more property than us. But imagine a country that is half our size. The people are saying this has to stop.
No, but it would not stop because greed. And the greed that fuels the political campaigns, because they will bring money in the plastic, the brown paper bags, and bring it to the political offices during election time. And of course, that money is not free money. They get their rewards down the road. I know of one Barbadian candidate who received money from people because they thought he was a good prospect. They was going to win. And when he didn't win, he said, what about my money? The police put him in court log and they want the money back because they were looking for bribes down the road. But then he didn't win the seat, so he wasn't a good prospect. He couldn't influence any contracts. And if I said, what about my money? That's a local case. Nobody going on now, It's a local case. I'm not going to call anybody's names, but we all know it is. So that money that goes into the political campaigns is responsible for a lot of the corruption that is going on in the place, and a lot of this changing land from zone 1 to zone whatever else they want to do with it, because it is lucrative. And we got to stop this, because I'll give you an example of how these people don't know what they're talking about. Years ago, they developed Harson's Cave. And they moved the people from around there, and there was a pig farm that was a fair distance from the cave, but they said that the water from the farm was getting into the cave. So they took that land away and they called another project house in St. Thomas. As just before you turn to go into Allen View, go down to the cave, there's a property on your left. That is the guy there had pigs, and they acquired that land and give him somewhere else to raise his pigs. But they were still getting contamination in the cave. So what did they do? They put dye packs into people's toilets. And some of those dye packs were in Carrington Village, St. Thomas. Carrington Village is the back entrance of that Mahal Gully, the one that looks over into St. Andrew. So you see how far that is away from the cave. But those dyes ended up in the cave. The dyes that they put in the toilets eventually worked their way into the cave. They were harmless dyes, of course, but I just wanted to see where the water was coming from. So if water coming from almost down to St. Andrew, because this was just on the ridge before it got down to St. Andrew, and it made its way into Harson's Cave, what nonsense they're telling me about making the Zone 1 area smaller, calling them Zone A, like that makes sense, and then say you got land, so many hectares for development. No, they got this land to help poison us, because the underground structure of the land will not change. And Barbados has a lot of caves. Barbados is basically hollow. Look here's in Bush Hall there. This big tree. I've known it for years. I've actually been there and talked to fellas. And know that was standing on hollow ground, not hallowed ground, but hollow ground. They just drop in. We got caves. The cave at Warren's there, that what we like to call the Barrack building, the Warren office complex. When Barrack was building that, digging out the foundation, their backhoe went 40 feet into the cave, into a cave. 40 feet dropped down. Caves all about there. Just down the road, you call it cave fill. What do you think you call it, cave fill? You call it caves. So Barbados has a lot of caves. And the water runs from St. Thomas all through these caves and the sea. So when you are telling me that this is not the Zone 1 area, you're going to make it small, no, you want to take land and sell it off to your friends, even at the expense of our health. And then I don't trust anything about Barbados when it comes to government maintaining anything. I do not know of any situation where the government maintains something that was done well. And I'm not talking about this administration, I'm talking about all of them. And you're going to risk our lives with government maintaining a sewage system, because they will have to put in a sewage system to get these to take care of the sewage that is going into what was once Zone 1, But they want money. And when you want money at whatever cost, that's what the government is doing, is telling us, the money, we want money, and if it means killing a few people, well, so be it. I am very sorry, but Nigel, yes, we need alien landholding legislation. And I'll tell you, some years ago, Barrow had actually passed an alien land holdings bill, but he had second thoughts. So it was never proclaimed. It was passed in the House. It was there, but they never used it. For whatever reason, maybe the same reasons. We were looking for the foreign dollar or the foreign pound. So we can afford to scare off these investors. Look, Bali only allow you to lease land for 25 years. And the people are still building properties up there because they know in 25 years they're going to have the money. And more. But we don't want to vex the investors, so we are letting them buy all of our land, our good land. That's where we go buy our food. And I see them bringing things into Barbados. And yams, I see yams coming in now. I see sweet potatoes and all kind of food stuff that we had in abundance here. No, we don't have in abundance. The land that we used to grow them on is now
It's now housing.
Housing, car parks.
But Caswell, you remember when we were planting sugarcane, there was something where they had to plant something else after a certain number of years the use of the property for sugarcane.
Yeah.
And then so as to rejuvenate the soil, and we planted edos, potatoes, yams. You remember yellow yam and white yam? We used to get yellow sweet potatoes, red sweet potatoes. I mean, we used to get all kinds of. I old enough to know about that.
Those yellow sweet potatoes were called Caroline Lee.
I didn't know they had a name.
I actually researched the name. You know, they were real sweet. They actually came from Egypt, and we had a brothel here owned by a woman called Caroline Lee. And those potatoes were so sweet that they called the potatoes Caroline Lee. After her.
But you remember that we used to have a lot. We used to have so much because I myself too went and had to help dig potatoes and yams as a child, not as child labor, as a child. Just I grew up in a primary school with my mother, and she taught us how to plant peanuts. We used to grow peanuts, Caswell.
Yeah,
as a child.
My grandmother in St. Lucie used to sell peanuts.
Yeah.
Had a small batch, and also sold tobacco.
And I remember, how our fields were transferred from the sugarcane. They went through a couple of years of yams, potatoes, edibles, all kinds of things, beans, carrots. I used to enjoy going and digging up the carrots. We didn't have the monkey infestation as bad then, but the beans, carrots, we used to have a passion fruit vine over our paling at our home. You remember the peach trees we used to pass on the road. You can't find a peach tree on the road now. You can't find a gooseberry tree on the road now. You can hardly find a tamarind tree.
Those peas used to be tall and long, and they grew around Christmas. They never bear. Right now we have these genetically modified things that people still go out there, and some little trees don't grow much more than 3 feet tall. I'm afraid of them. I don't know what is in them, but they're not natural. They're genetically modified. But people rush after them, calling them they're not the same. They're not the same. And the thing I'll tell you, when those peach trees grow around Christmas time, I used to sit down. I used to shell peas till my fingers get black, and then my mother would sell them in tongue. And then you would slash the trees, and the next year they would spring back and they would grow again. But you don't see the plant all these little fancy trees. You get peas on a 3-monthly basis now, after 3 months, but they are not the real deal. We are getting a lot of stuff that I don't know when you genetically modify these things, if when you eat them, they will genetically modify you. But that's what we're getting.
Well, I saw somewhere today, Rich, and what he sent me I think it was on Instagram, where according to the code, something on the code that will show you whether it's genetically modified, whether it's organic or something else. And if the code begins with a 9, it is organic. If it begins with a 4, it's genetically modified. It's something along that line when it comes to the produce and so forth. But of course, our produce here packaged locally. I don't know that we carry a lot of barcodes for that, but for the ones that import, I think we do.
Yeah, but we don't have that. We don't have that, as far as I know. But you can tell when the genetically modified. Look at the carrots. You go into a supermarket and you see tons of carrots, and all of them the same length. You grow carrots, ready? You know that carrots come all kind of lengths and shapes and stubby, and some grow 2 pieces like 2 legs and that kind of stuff. That's the real thing.
Yeah.
And that is what you need, not the this imported stuff that they're genetically modified, because we don't know what we're eating. What we should be concentrating on is providing our own food, not allowing other people to sell us something that they don't even want. Because I can tell you, there are some chemicals that we use here in Barbados, like Roundup and stuff, that cannot be used where they're made.
That's correct.
You
That
cannot
is
use
correct.
use them in the States.
As a matter of fact, I know of medications, Caswell, for a fact, that were turned down by the CDC in the United States, and the pharmaceutical industry shipped them to the Philippines. And a lot of the children in the Philippines started to get ill as a result of the medications that they were taking, because they couldn't be used in the United States. It's almost like if countries like ours are the guinea pigs or the dumping ground for those kinds of things.
It's both. It's not or. It's both. So we get, and then when we use these chemicals, they're retained in the food. My father, when he used to plant stuff, God rest him now, but we had some cucumbers, and ever so often he would allow some of the cucumbers to get old and hard and brown. When they get hard, he clean them out, he wash them, and he take those seeds and plant them the next time. Now, you have some things growing that you get from Monsanto's and all this kind of stuff. You know, if you plant those seeds, they don't grow. They do not grow. They're not the real deal. Something is wrong with them. And they are genetically modified to make sure you only get one crop from those seeds. So you have to buy seeds every time. But we forget our traditional farming, and we go and get the cheaper stuff. You know, the itinerant Indian men used to come and say, good things no cheap, cheap things no good. Well, in a lot of cases, that is true. Because a lot of these cheap foods are no good. And then they produce disease. And then we have to buy their medicines. And the medicines...
Well, it's all an interesting conspiracy. It's an interesting conspiracy together, because if they produce foods that had physical problems, you have to buy the drugs, and the pharmaceutical industry produce the drugs. So they're the people at the end of the day who are really making the money.
But then they have interlocking ownerships. So the companies own each other. So the same group of people owning both sets of companies. So the money goes to them. We have to stop being so lazy in our outlook. Our government must tell our people, look, produce more food. But no, we sign on to the World Trade Organization, and we have to now put the same sort of restrictions on goods, or to let them in free, because they're supposed to be free. And when they come, we get...
But what is hypocritical, Caswell? The United States signed on to everything we have signed on to. I remember making the comment, I can't remember if it was here or where it was I was speaking, about the United Nations Charter to do with the protection of children, rights of children and so on. The United States is the only country in the world that has not ratified it. The only country that has not ratified it. Now, you know why they don't have to ratify it? and we got Edmund Hinkson talking crap about having to ratify it and having to pass it, because they are the people who fund the World Bank and the IMF. Again, we get back to the matter of he who has the money, pays the pipers,
He who
pays the tune.
the tune.
Right? You see, so they can afford to push and press matters on us because we get our funding from them, and we go borrowing from them. And look, I will tell you that down through the years I've learned something about, because I see a number of people comment about climate change. Let me tell you something. The United States is responsible for a lot of experimental climate change processes that are affecting global weather. They're nothing to do with the sun, the moon, the stars, or the planets. As my little grandson, my son used to say as a little boy. The United States is guilty of it. The president of the United States is recorded on mic, reading from a teleprompter, stating how they are going to have to initiate and use their weapons to affect the weather. He is on mic saying it. That is, he can't read he has to read from a teleprompter. He can't ad lib.
All right.
So that would have had to be a prepared statement.
We have a question here, Caswell. Would you like to tackle this one? What are your thoughts on the Chinese-funded Dukes project?
That's the one in St. Thomas?
Yeah, that is one of the grounds that I dig yams into. That land was given by Mr. Edgell from Dukes for the university to develop agriculture and agricultural research. The land stayed there for years, long after Mr. Edgell and his family gave that land to university. And somebody surprised me passing there, and I'm seeing all kind of buildings going up with, pardon the expression, spotters and skinners written all over it. I can't read the Chinese. And I still do not understand why. I hear they're talking about developing Highland rice and all kind of nonsense. The problem is, I do not, and don't get me wrong, and I don't think I'm racist or anything, so, but I have difficulty with Chinese having my food and with my research and with my farming. When Queen's College was in town, remember Queen's College was in town, where the Ministry of Education is now?
Oh, yeah.
They built the new Queen's College down in Husband in St. James, and they converted the old Queen's College into government offices, Ministry of Education. The Chinese were commissioned to develop that property, and they lived on the compound. While they were building, they were living there, and they planted their own cabbage, Chinese cabbage and stuff. And Oinafa almost had a heart attack when he found out what they were using as fertilizer for the Chinese cabbage. That when they had surplus, used to carry nobody gas station or war and sell them. Big, beautiful cabbages, Chinese cabbage and stuff. And the agents were buying them. But the fertilizer was their urine, and their feces. That's what they use. That's what they do in China. I don't want to come and teach me about agriculture. I saw my father farming on land that was full of rocks. And what he couldn't dig out, when he pick up the grass, dig up the grass, he put the grass on top of the rocks. And he let it rotting down. Eventually, you had crops growing on that rock used to be. We don't need them. I've said we don't need their techniques. But I have to blame the University of Wisconsin because the University of Barbados is too lazy. I went to the University of Wisconsin to do a program there a number of years ago. And the University of Wisconsin is interspersed throughout the town. It is not like one building here, like how we got the buildings down Caswell. The university is part of the town. The university bookstore is next door to Walmart and stuff. Down the road, you got a building which is the law school. That down the road, you have the agriculture section. And because Wisconsin is famous for its dairy, the farm, the farm and the university produced milk, and we could go to the supermarkets and buy milk that was produced by the university, and another item, the cheese and stuff that was produced there. They were developing them and showing the farmers how to develop their own farms. You know, they were like, the university was like the experimental body. We don't gotta get Chinese, but the university in Barbados now lazy. They just want to sit down and talk. I don't see a lot of research coming out of them. And certainly, when Mr. Edel gave them that land, I expected them to go on and do agricultural research, how to develop new strains and better to what we have. No, they get the Chinese. And what are you teaching the farmers that coming up there? We want everybody to come with a law degree or a degree in history or something. So no, we want people who can be farmers. And a farmer with qualifications coming to the university, because the university was able to transform agriculture in Barbados. No, they're not doing that. They're just looking for handouts. And that's why they are failing, because they have to depend on government. They're not doing anything to generate their own income. The professors down there are supposed to produce research. I ain't gonna bother doing research in farming. That's the problem, you know. Our
And that's
university
something that we
had a
did.
parody.
That's something we did in our primary school. You remember we used to have something called domestic science, and we were taught. I talked about the peanuts, and we were taught even how to plant the same carrots and all of that. I remember doing it in the grounds of the Boscobel School in St. Peter, when my mother was principal there. She taught us how to do all these kind of things on the domestic side. But I even actually learned, believe it or not, to cook. My family wouldn't trust me with that now, but I even learned how to do a little thing. But to be honest with you, Caswell, a lot of our young people just simply don't see wealth in terms of the agriculture, because we haven't been socialized that way. You see, we've been taught that, we came up in an era when you had to become a doctor or a lawyer to really make money, and there was no money to be made in agriculture.
I would like to say something at this point. Now that you mentioned the era that you came up in. My father was born in 1940. When he was a teenager, his family, well, we are from fishermen in St. Philip. So he didn't want to do fishing. He didn't want to do farming or anything like that. So when he had the opportunity, he left and came to America, but he had come to work in their farming program, and afterwards he went his way. But it took me a while to understand his thought process and what was happening in Barbados. It is that there was nowhere really for nothing for young men to go into at that point in time, because agriculture was not changing. And what happened was, instead of the government transforming the agricultural industry, they send young men to Canada and to Miami and wherever, to all places in US to develop their agriculture. And then they did not bring them back and have them utilize the skills that they learned. So there's this big disconnect, starting with people in that era to present day when it comes to agriculture in Barbados. We need to get back together to let them see that agriculture can be transformative. That's what is needed, so that young people can see that it is different than just going in whole ground or something like that. You can use all sorts of technology now to farm.
No, but sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Caswell. Go ahead.
Agriculture was making money hand over fist in Barbados for years. The problem is that people believe that agriculture was sugarcane only. You see those yams and sweet potatoes and stuff? When the plantations were selling them, they were sold off the books. They didn't go in to help pay down the debt that the sugar created. And the government, I don't know if they were stupid or they just conspired with the people who own these plantations so they can make money. The plantation owners made lots of money. I can tell you, I know, because my mother used to be one of the women who sold the yams and the sweet potatoes and the other produce on the plantation. She was the woman in the ground with the rod measuring off. And I can tell you from what she told me how much money used to make. But those monies never went on the books. They went straight to the owner's pockets. And so when you hear the agriculture was not making any money, you mean sugar was not making any money, and they tricked the government for years. And the government was providing subsidies, and then they can't pay them back. Eventually, that's how come the government own a lot of plantations on the place, because the people give it the plantations, man, they get filthy rich. And then they got into housing. Look at it. And make have a lot more money again. Where they get the money to develop the housing from, if they don't have the money, they got the money for agriculture. Agriculture was making money, but we were led to believe it wasn't making any money because the laborers who actually did the breaking work didn't make any money. I remember the first time when I left school, my first job was earning $350 a month. Princely summer, $350 a month. That was more money than my mother ever made in a month in her job on the plantations, and she would work all her life on plantations. Okay? My $350 a month in 1977 was more than my mother made in any month that she was working there. How I know that? That's what she told me. Right? Because they used to pay them pittance.
That's true.
Yep,
that's true.
So that is why people didn't want their children in agriculture, because if your children get into agriculture, they can pay them the kind of money I was paying. Then you gotta live on the plantation land, because you can't get the land anywhere else, because you can't afford any land. And prior to Grantley Adams, if you lived on the plantation and your children had to work in the fields, or you had to move your house, Grantley Adams abolished that. His son Tom Adams came in and took the land away from the plantation owners, the land that you were living on for all the years, and times for your purchase. A lot of people, that was transformative. But
Caswell, but isn't it a fact that in many countries, I mean, I stand to be corrected, I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination on agriculture, but isn't it a fact that in a lot of countries that agriculture is subsidized by the government, which is why they can keep their prices at the levels that they can?
yes, look at Europe. The beet sugar that messed up our sugar, subsidized. The milk, butter, cheese, and stuff in the European Union and stuff, subsidized. As a matter of fact, the government was paying them to make it, and because they were paying them to make it, they were making so much that had dumped a lot. They had too much. All subsidies. And now they're telling us that we can't subsidize our agriculture. World Trade Organization. But American agriculture is subsidized. Europe agriculture is subsidized, but not Barbados. And they will expect. That is why we can't get, well, mind you, I don't eat it myself. I don't buy it, these chickens. They can't get decent chicken grown. And if you do, you got to pay an arm and a leg for the feed.
Which is genetically modified feed. But
Yeah,
let me ask you this, because isn't this a part of the whole problem? Because if we are importing food from overseas, from countries where the agricultural sector is subsidized by the government, it is no way that the farmers in Barbados can compete in terms of price if their situation here is not subsidized by the local government, because you just can't match the prices. I mean, at the end of the day, we talked at the beginning of the show about the high prices in Barbados, but at the end of the day, when a person goes into the supermarket or shop, he's not just going to look at the quality of something, whether it's GMO or genetically modified, or he's going to look at the price, because he has only so much at his disposal to spend. And so he's going to, more often than not, look to pick up an imported product because it's cheaper than the local product, because those imported products are coming from countries where subsidies exist, while our local farmers are not subsidized.
And I do not know why our government don't assist our farmers better But I can tell you something. A lot of the people who import agriculture products subsidize campaigns. Sometimes you're looking for tomatoes selling $1 a pound. You can still get tomatoes coming from overseas. You know what I mean? Because government gives permission. And then sometimes when they bring them in, our people can't compete with them. So the produce stay there, and of course are don't last too long, and they just have to dump them. We bring in things that we can grow here, and even while they're in season here, we still bring them in. I remember pumpkins. My sister had whole set of pumpkins, and they brought in pumpkins.
So we must extend the shelf life of produce grown in Barbados by doing things like freezing and some other things as well. We have to make byproducts. It is time to make byproducts of the agricultural goods that we grow in Barbados to extend the life of the food instead of importing. But it has to be something that government helps with as well.
You see, you cannot set up a plant to extend the life of our produce when our produce is sporadic. You want during the season you have to have a continuous flow of these things. Or not bank and shut down all the time.
Yes.
And we don't produce enough. And even if we were producing or have a lot more than we were producing, the cost, because when you're going, like, I don't know like canning, but if you're going to can, you have to produce a lot of stuff and cheaply, because if you can them, you want the can to be a certain price. If you freeze them, you have to put in facilities where you can freeze them. That can cost money. So you're not going, but where the farmer who is scraping to pay his feed bill and get money to produce, to put in that kind of infrastructure, it's not going to happen. And it's not going to happen because the importers, the importers have a lot more money on agricultural products than the people who grow them in Barbados. Because you can see parsley coming in big bunches. I mean, it's a big bunch of parsley for $4. You say, what? But it's the longest parsley you ever saw in your life. What are you going to do?
Caswell, how do you speak to I see somebody here is asking about about the Barbados Development Bank. But how do you speak to the aspect of our tourism sector utilizing a lot of our locally produced products? I mean, you take things like breadfruit. I mean, when I talk with tourists on the street, and when you're up in Oystins on a Friday night, during tourist season, and even sometimes when I'm at the hotel where my daughter works, and I engage some of the tourists and I talk to them about the food and so on. They're all trying to find out, where can I get local food from? Where can I get local food from? They don't want steak because they eat steak all the time. Maybe chicken they would want, but they're looking to find fish and some of the local dishes. The breadfruit, the rice and peas, those kind of things. Why is it that our tourism industry, or does our tourism industry utilize our production in Barbados of agriculture enough?
A friend of mine had a bodybuilding show some years ago, and the people came from overseas, participants came from overseas, and he took them non-traditional places. He took them to Oystins, and he was my neighbor, my next door neighbor. So when he brought him to his house, I was invited over to meet and greet and help talk with the people, And one of the guys told me, one of the foreign bodybuilders told me they took them to a place named Oystins, that's what we call it, last night. He had to wait so long for the food, and it took him so long. But then he said when he did get the food, it was a snapper and something else on the plate. He said, but it was the best snapper he ever had. If you know what, he would have waited for another hour to get one. It was so good. Right?
I can empathize with that.
He said he never tasted anything like it. And he had snapper before. You see? So we people come here, they don't want to eat the continental breakfast and that kind of stuff. They want to eat probably dry bakes, but we're not producing them for them. We give them bacon, eggs, sausage that they get every day in New York when they go to McDonald's and get them cheap. So they're looking for something new. But our people are not innovative. So they feed them the crap that their customer overseas and it turns them off. I thought this guy was so excited, and then when we turn around and give him fish cakes too, he got some fish cakes that Friday and he eating them and thing. He got one of these. These are great. They're not getting the things that we would think.
But here's the thing, Caswell. What can we do? Because we can be critical of so many things, and I can be at times. But sometimes I stop and I think, what can we do to turn things around in terms of food costs? Because we are discussing that. I mean, you took that up when you came in. What can we do? Heather, we talked about Brazil. But of course, there we go again. That is an imported perspective again that we're looking at. But Brazil produces some excellent produce and excellent food. But what can we do to revitalize, Caswell, the agricultural sector, and as it were, try to draw young people into it? Because really, the future in this area, the future of the country, really depends on a lot of the young people like Kemar. And some of the younger ones, the children that they will give birth to, and so on. How can we make this aspect of food production in Barbados so attractive? And I don't just mean producing medicinal cannabis. You know what I mean? I mean producing something that the general public can consume. What can we do to research that, or to spur that, or to produce it, to innovate it? Because I think the last time I was on, I heard Maxine McLean, I think she spoke about a young man that was trying to do some kind of container agriculture or something of that nature. And it wasn't really encouraged here in Barbados. And then he took it to New York, and it's doing very well overseas. What can we do? What are some of the things you think we can do?
What we can do, government can provide incentives for people who want to get into farming. And don't let the politics tell you that young people don't want to get into farming. Young people are run out of farming. They try and they run out of farming because of the importation, cheap imports. You are on some farms in the United States. Some of these farms are bigger than half the size of Barbados. They're big, massive things. So when they plant a whole set of things on one field, and they use the combines to harvest them. So they're producing these things at cents. We can't produce them at cents. But if you are going to bring them to Barbados, the government must tax them like everything else. And the taxes should be high to discourage people to make the cost unattractive. And then also what you can do, I spoke to it last night, price controls. You have to submit to the price control division your invoices to see how much you pay for them, and then we will say to you, all right, your markup can't be more than X. And that will discourage some people. That will discourage a lot of people. Because let me tell you something, markups in Barbados are astronomically high. And
well, I can tell you coming from, because I was involved in the sales of food produce coming from Jamaica. I worked with Alamak for several years. And we used to bring in the oranges and those kinds of things. And I know food markups in the supermarket range between 33 to 45% in terms of food. If you go into some of these slow moving products, the markup goes even higher than that. But the fast moving products are generally about 33 to 45%. I heard some people talking about 1,000%, 3,000%. That is automotive parts. That's really not food. I don't know that has changed. But when you take, and I raised that again in some discussion with someone, I think it might have been here tonight. If you know, for example, Caswell, that let's say you're paying 50% import duty on a commodity that was coming in before the pandemic, okay? That commodity has now astronomically risen because shipping has gone through the roof. We know the reasons for that in terms of China and the container shipping costs. But your duty rate is still at 50%. So before the pandemic, 50% of the import of the container and import stuff was about $100. Let's say it's $100 you're charging 50% on. Now you're charging 50% on $1,000. So the duty you're making is astronomically more. Why can't you reduce the level of duty so that you can help reduce the cost of living in Barbados while the government still makes dollar-wise the same amount of money that they would have made a few years ago?
What my argument with you is that we have a common external tariff with CARICOM, so they will have to be done through in CARICOM. But we have VAT and other taxes that we put on stuff that you can remove.
Or reduce.
You can remove. VAT makes
Mhm.
a lot of money. I remember when VAT first came into being, the project people had decided that it should be a 13% VAT. And the Prime Minister then, when after determined, let me make it 15 because he wanted that 2% to put down for a rainy day. So the VAT was making a hell of a lot more money than it was ever intended to make. And now,
But it was making more money too than all the taxes that were combined together that it was supposed to replace. Because you remember we
yeah,
had all those levies that used to be on products when they came in.
and then too, so 13% was supposed to be adequate to produce the kind of taxes but then we would have been able to cover our expenses and stuff for the kind of money the government was using. But they put it at sub 15. I know it's 17 and a half. And I hear people talk about 121, but that's because we have a government with an insatiable appetite for money, but not to use it for productive purposes. They use it for their friends and family and give everybody contracts. I know people who got contracts to build homes for poor people, and some of these fellas, the first time they held a hammer in their hand was to pass it to somebody, but they don't build anything. They get the contracts and then they go to Caribbean and say, "Look, I got a contract. We can share this money." So the money got shared between the body, the contract. The fella help you build the house and yourself. So that's why they've been making a lot of money from those contracts. But the place is corrupt. That's the problem. Things could be a lot cheaper if government look out for the best interests of the people that they are elected to serve. And if the rich people don't need government, Government is about making the most vulnerable, taking care of the most vulnerable. The most vulnerable, not the rich people. But these are the people that are benefiting in Barbados. Because government decide that they want to have, or political parties that they want to have these fancy election campaigns and stuff. So they'll have the glitz, and those glitz cost money. So the people who give them the money, they have to get their return. And their return is usually the prices. That's why nobody is fixing the prices in Barbados. Nobody will speak to it. I can hear a lot of kickback from people who think that I don't know what you're talking about. Did when I left school was to work as a customs clerk, the cost and mustn't. And they imported a lot of stuff. And I used to see the price, and I used to work next door to the people do costings. And I went down there to learn how to do costings. And when they saw the markups, I said, "Oh my God." So this is not something that was just happening. Why do you think these people get rich? Because it was making a lot of money and little effort. They don't make anything. They don't produce anything. They just import and sell at a high markup. And we gotta move away from that. But government has to be committed, and government has to stop being in the pockets of those people who got money, and run this country in the interest of the people who most need the help, the poor people.
But it doesn't appear though, Caswell, that we are ever going to see that happening with either of the parties in Barbados. And it's one of the reasons that I have been speaking on occasions and advocating for the rise of independent candidates. And I really believe that we're coming to a place in Barbados I would think over the next few years when independent candidates are going to become more popular in the minds of Barbadians because they are seeing that our political parties have not been delivering the things that Barbadian people want. And I you know I commend all that has been done down through the years because I don't want to be one that said nothing has happened. That would not be correct. It wouldn't be true. It wouldn't be honest. They've done quite a lot for Barbados, but at this point in our lives, 2023, it would appear that there is a declining interest in doing what even the people want because you can't do what is in the interest of people. It's like me trying to determine what is in the interest of my children in 2023 when my children haven't expressed what they are interested in. If my mother and father had listened to me, I would probably have ended up in Formula One racing before Lewis Hamilton. But they didn't listen to me. They wanted me to be a doctor or a lawyer. Well, of course, I became what I am today, a preacher, because my report book always came home too talkative, and doctors don't say nothing but they write up a lot of things. Lawyers talk a lot, but I don't know about that. But anyhow, so what we do now is you try to find out what the child's strengths are, what it likes, and channel it in that area. That is not happening on a large scale in Barbados. And I'm not being simplistic. As a matter of fact, it is because we are not simplistic. We've complicated this matter so much that the ordinary man, I'm sure you can see the answer, isn't even being listened to. Because we've complicated it with all these brilliant so-called minds. That where are we today? Where are we today? And I really believe that we need to take some action. I think these marches that we're having, I am going to continue to be a part of them because I believe that they're having an impact. But I would like to see it even go further than the march. I would like to see Barbadians take a stand. And it's interesting. The current administration is critical of us doing marches, but they were the people who marched with the previous administration, and they had no problems with that. But now others are marching where their environment is concerned. You have a problem with that, but that's our constitutional right. That is the freedom we have within the society within which we live when we are not comfortable and we are not satisfied with things.
I'll tell you though, we have been making them miserable because they want to know how to get rid of us, how to stop us. And they don't want our voices out there because our voices out there are saying things that the population of Barbados should have been hearing long ago, things that the politicians want to keep covered. And they got really nasty yesterday. When I said nasty, I really mean nasty. And this is not something that the guy who actually did it, I don't believe that they were the authors of the plan. When we set up for our meeting yesterday down Baxter's Road, where we had it, a sanitation truck came down. No garbage to pick up. Nothing there, nothing. No garbage is ever there. For all the years I've been going into town, there's a lot of years now, I have never seen garbage in that location. But they stopped there, turned on the compactor, and squeezed out everything out of that truck so as to take us out from our meeting. That was not something that the sanitation man came up with. But I would like to ask Mr. Nichols, because he's responsible for this, for the operations of
Not
sanitation.
me. Please let them know it's not me.
He's one of those retired persons that they brought back to manage the sanitation. They brought back 2 geriatrics to run the sanitation. He's one of them. And I would like to hear from him if he knew anything about it, or if he knew who gave the instructions, because that was nasty. Mind you, eventually they came and they cleaned it up. But they wanted to make sure that people don't stick around to hear what we had to say. And if you could sink to that depth and go to those lengths, it means that we are bothering them. We are having an impact. And it's amazing that rather than say, some of these people got a point, let me look at it. Our dictatorship government wants to say, well, look, this is what we say, and this is what it must be. I don't want to hear from Caswell, Freddie, Marsha, anybody at all. This is what we're going to do. Somebody sent me some things that HINKSON said yes, and it's reporting paper today. Well, normally I don't read anything he has to say, and I'm not going to start now. This is a guy who was a minister of the government, and he was the most lackluster minister of all. So much so, the Prime Minister get rid of him. And when she got rid of him, she gave him a trip to Guyana to represent her at some opening of Parliament or something like that. And he went the week after he got fired. It doesn't have any. I can't call it guts. You know, she would have. She can't throw me a bone like that. I would leave. So it says that his integrity is a bit off. And what politicians usually do, they come out and they get somebody. What ministers of government, the government usually do, is to get somebody who is not in the government, because the government basically is the cabinet, and they're the people who make the policy for Barbados. So when you hear a backbencher making these pronouncements, it is that they send him to do it, but they can always back off and say, "Oh, that was his personal opinion because he is not part of the government." So they send fools out to do that kind of thing. So when he comes and he makes these announcements, it is he's sent. I've never heard Edmund Hinkson thinking for himself yet. He ain't gonna start now.
But I thought it was very disingenuous. And I mean, as I mentioned at the beginning of the program with Heather, I know Edmund quite well. He's supposed to be family to me. And I'm not necessarily going to disown that aspect, but I find it very disingenuous, very, as my mother would say, very unmannerly and very arrogant. And technically, what he was saying is that it don't matter what anybody has to say. They don't care what presentations are made to the committee. They don't care what the Barbadians have to say. They don't care what your concerns are. We pass in the bill. Nobody is saying that we want to see this matter hijacked. Nobody has even floated that idea. We have never addressed that aspect at all. We have addressed concerns that the bill does not, in our opinion, from its commencement, does not set children as its number one goal. It's supposed to be a child protection bill, and it begins with compliance to the United Nations. And that is, these are just one or two of the areas. I mean, there's several other areas that have been pointed out to us by several different attorneys at law. And for Mr. Hinkson to come and pontificate. And incidentally, Caswell, I understand that the meeting he attended was a joint meeting of 3 branches at Queen's College. That somebody apparently was to hold a meeting before, and they gave up the meeting, and they hardly had anybody in attendance. So I don't know. I think what is happening is that we're beginning to see a slide of support where the parties in Barbados are concerned. That is why I am floating the idea of independent candidates. But to get back to the matter of his expressions, I was extremely disappointed and annoyed, to be honest with you, that he would talk about foolishness. I am expressing a concern. It is not Edwin Hinkson's children who are going to be going to school, who are going to be bothered by this. It's going to be my grandchildren and the children and grandchildren of other people who are expressing concerns about certain aspects of how the bill is being presented. Nobody is throwing out the bill or says they don't want the bill to be passed. We are asking simply that you pay attention to certain areas and, if possible, restructure those areas based on the concerns that we are expressing. But clearly, he don't want to hear none of that. As far as he's concerned, we passed in the bill. We don't care what you think. And if that is the attitude of Mr. Hinkson, who's supposed to be a senior attorney at law in this country, he was just inducted into some new system or whatever it is that they've had. If that is his opinion, and he is a sitting member of parliament, then I am concerned about the other 29, the majority of who have been in parliament for some time. Some other people are now coming in under their influence, but I am concerned about that.
No, I wouldn't bother my head about Edmund Hinkson.
It's not Edmund I bother my head about. It is just the overall attitude he represents, and that is why the people of Barbados have to stand up.
That's what I'm saying to you. I won't bother too much about him. He is bringing a message. He is bringing a message that the cabinet wants sent, but they don't want sent themselves. So they got to scapegoat to bring it for us. That's what he is. I have been around politicians and politics for far too long. I know how it works. I remember David Thompson and I have been good friends for years from school. From the third day, the second or third day when he came to Camembert, I wanted to meet him because there were rumors going around that he was Tom Adams' son. Remember that? And I was from Thomas, and my family supported Tom Adams and things. So I approached him. When I saw him, I saw this little bony fellow walking across the path, like bicycle shed. I shouted for him. I was the third form. He's a little boy, so yeah, come. And I said to him, "You're Tom Adams' son?" He says, "No, but I appreciate your asking, because everybody walking around the place saying these things, and you're the only body who come ask me anything." We were friends from then till he died. And I remember when he became prime minister, I saw his wife at NUPW. She came to do some business there. I was working at the time. And he raised the price of gasoline. And he made an announcement himself. And I said to her, "I got a message for you to take to your husband." She said, "Well, call in there." I said, "I don't want to call in him. I want to bother him. He's my prime minister. No, I ain't want to bother him. Because we used to talk on the phone sometimes, you know." And she knew that. So she told me, I said, "No, all I want you to tell him is, when you go and do something, give bad news. You give it to a permanent secretary or a minister that you don't like. Prime ministers only deliver good news." He saw me a few days later, and he saw me, tell me, "Get a message," and he gave me a thumbs up. You know, but that is basic. Politicians usually get some fool to deliver the bad news, and it's usually a fool not in the cabinet. So that's Edmund Hinkson's role now. He is like a little gopher. You know, so don't pay him any mind. This is what the prime minister and her cabinet wants to say. So if there is pushback from the people of this country, they have out there saying, "Oh, he was just expressing his opinion," because that is not government policy. That's the way out. Tom used to do it with Aaron Trust, remember? Aaron Trust used to get up and make all the big noises and stuff. And then when Tom got to back off, he said, "Well, that's just Aaron talking." I see. So I don't take him seriously, because I know his role. He is right now the clown prince of parliament. And so that he has to do that, you know, to remain relevant. Poor boy. He's going just now, you know. He ain't going because he wants to go. He's going because he's directed to go. And the thing is, he's going against his will, and he's walking around with the person they want to replace that they want to replace him, you know, and introduce them to the people. You know, he is irrelevant. Listen to the message and find out this is what government is saying through their mouthpiece.
Yes. I mean, we raised. He spoke about, and I'm just reading the article that's carried in the newspaper. He spoke about the public raising concerns about the measures, including curtailment of parental rights and concepts of gender identity and sexual orientation. But the reality and the fact is that the languaging in the bill with regards to those areas is so ambiguous that it leaves the door open. That is precisely one of the points that is being made. And you know, this is one of the things that I listened carefully to the CPC when she was responding to several people in the committee. And she referenced the fact that about how the law is interpreted and the parameters or the paradigms, I would call it, where the law is interpreted with regards to these matters. But the concern is that the door is still left open once the legislation is passed for certain things to be introduced under the table without the people of Barbados knowing anything, just like what happened with the comprehensive sexuality education, just like what happened with the bathrooms up in the school in St. Philip that Barbadians did not know anything about. Barbadians did not know anything about these two new schools going, and I am not going to get into the debate on it, but we learned after the fact. Not before. There was not put to the people of Barbados that there was a proposal or an idea floated to do these two schools. The decision was made, and a charity, and I will tell you this, Caswell, you know, charities do not always grant funding without conditions, because there are always conditions unless the charity or the philanthropic donor indicates no ties attached. There are conditions connected to their grants.
Man, look, I can tell you that for a fact because I was one of the people instrumental in setting up the National Council on Substance Abuse. We were given money from a lot of organizations. United Nations National Drug Control Program, Caswell, a whole set of people gave us funding. When that first year of operation, hardly any money to set up that organization came from government coffers. Even my salary came from external sources. But you had to jump through some serious hoops to access that money. At one stage, I was saying, let people keep the damn money because you had to do so much to access charity, to get grant funding. Because when those, and you have to report down to the cent when you spend anything. Mind you, I always reported down to the cent and I never had a cent out one way or the other. But you know, I'm not an accountant. I just know if I got $1 and I spend 50 cents, I should still got 50 cents. I don't talk depreciation, I don't talk nothing. I just talk receipts and payments. So I was a receipts and payments man. I set up that organization. As a matter of fact, I drafted the act. But I can tell you, the funding that we got, we had to jump hoops to get it. You know, so you're not wrong. So the conditions. I think is what I want to say is that government should tell the country, or the political party should tell the country, this is what we will do for you if we get elected. It is called a manifesto. If you look at this government and then you read their manifesto, you will not see anything that suggests in the manifesto that there was a hint of doing what they're doing now. These people are coming up with harebrained schemes on the cuff. It is like policy on the trot. I like to say the Prime Minister's met policy. She just wake up one morning and she's like, this is what happened. And without anybody to hold her back, whether good or bad, and usually bad, we end up in a mess because the Prime Minister don't think things through to the logical conclusion. She gets a bright idea, and that is the only idea that can stand up. God knows if we want two schools in such close proximity and to bring more people into town, because our planning don't take into consideration the fact that you don't have transportation. I want to divert it to something else. When I was a boy going to school, St. Michael's School started at 8:30. Kemar started at 9:15. And the Lord's School started at 10.
Harrison College started at 20 minutes to 9, I think. Right? 20 minutes to 9, 20 minutes to 8. 20 minutes to 8, I think.
But why that was so? Because one bus used to service those three schools. So when you drop down people in St. Michael's, they carry bus and pick Kemar people and drop the Kemar, and then when our bus then went and pick up the Lord's School people, and everybody got school early. Now another harebrained scheme decided, look, every school should start at 8:30. So you cannot use one bus anymore. And you have now what they call, they've come this zoning thing. They want people, if you come from St. Thomas, you go to school in St. Thomas. If you come from St. George, you go to school, which is nonsense. Because let me tell you something. I went to school with people, the first form at Kemar School. I had people from Port St. John, Club Morgan, Long Gap, Spooners Hill, Crawford Land, Black Rock, Cave Hill. I call basketball. Whole set of people that I would not have known any of, because I was a little boy when I walked horse in Thomas, and we had a lot of transportation to get around the place. So I don't know now about those people, but I learned the culture of those people. I learned how to mix with them. I know how to talk with them. I know things about them that we became friends. So that cross-fertilization. Now, when you take students and restrict them to their geographical areas. We're going to have a land of strangers. A small land will be a land of strangers. Let the mixing happen. We had people from Basketball that used to get school before, the fellas that live in Waterford, whose back paling was the school wall. Kemar back wall was their wall. Because the paling only had two sides, and the wall was the other part of the paling. And they used to get school late. So I don't know what they're talking about. Get up and do your stuff. Get up and get basketball first. Get school earlier than the fellas who come from there. They come from basketball St. Peter. So the government has messed up things that they don't understand. They have messed up whatever they touch. They messed up even with the problem here with the hospital. Now we're talking about elder care and granny dumping. It ain't granny dumping. One time when you were a little boy and the old people get old enough, you used to go down to the matron. You used to call them the matron in those days. At the district hospital or the arms house, and the matron would take them in when they reach a point where they can't take care of themselves. Now you close down, because almost every parish had an arms house. You close them down and left, because they just recently closed Gordon Coming, the one in Waterhouse and Thomas. That was just recently closed without any fanfare. Nobody telling about anything. They closed, and so you have, I don't know if St. Lucie still operates because that was a pandemic thing. You have the geriatric, St. Philip. Oh, else? I can't think of anything else. But so, and you can't get in. Nobody can get in. And in order to get in, now you got to call a minister to get one of your family in there. Because the people who are supposed to assess you to decide if you're going to get this still don't have the wherewithal. Who can't make that decision unless some politician make it for you. So you have an old grandmother or grandfather who can't stay home by themselves because if I were like burning down the house. Because you got dementia. But you got to work. You got if you don't work, because one thing, the mothers used to stay at home, and more so than not, and the fathers used to bring home the bacon. Now both mothers and fathers are working. If both mothers and fathers are working, who can take care of the grandparents? So when you take them to the hospital and know the fellow now can't take care of himself, you can take him back to carry home at you. To do what? So it's not granny dumping. It is government policy over the years that caused this problem because they did not understand how Barbados worked. This is when you have people who grew up with in Sandy Lane and those other places, and no one come around this country. They don't understand how the country works because they were not really part of it. So everything, the school zoning, the granny dumping, and all kind of nonsense that they come try to shame people about. Now people, look, most people don't want their parents in the hospital all the time. But if you take them out, and you go to work tomorrow, what can happen? There's no place for them to go. And if you
we need to develop a place for them. We need to develop a place for them then, Caswell.
We had places for them. We shut them down because we wanted to sell the land. Not the one in Oystins. It was right next to the sea. The people to get all the sea breeze and things. They said, no.
Yes, somebody just mentioned that in the chat.
You know, and they closed it down because they don't want to sell the piece of land there. That is the problem. That was closed down by LP too. You see, government does not understand that these politicians that come in don't have any knowledge, don't have any experience. They're not in who Barbados is and what Barbados really is. They can go and copy everything. They can copy all these slogans about the place, but they don't know who we are and how we function. So they try to embarrass people and talk about, oh, you left your grandma in the hospital, you left your auntie in the hospital, that kind of thing. Auntie used to live by her own. Grandma used to live on her own. But she got ill. You know, going home, leaving for work on mornings. The children go to school, the husband goes to school, and you go to work, the mother goes to work. The house is closed down. You know, old people, when they get the husband matches and things, they start playing with them, and next thing you know, they turn on the gas stove and wait for the wick to soak. And next thing you know, the whole house gone up, granny and all. You know, the oil stove, so go turn on the oil and when the wick soak, then you light it. Some of them is still going along, soak the wick. And when you the gas come and build up in your house, bam, you can't leave them home. And the government has not done anything but criticize people. Then you say that you're going to help them to live in their own homes with the National Assistance Board. Another big racket. Another racket. Because then you can go and take care of them. Some people get 2 or 3 visits during the week, but Saturdays and Sundays they don't get any. I know of a case where a man, he was incapacitated, he cannot do a lot, and he could barely walk. He was in a house, and he was trying to get to the bathroom, and he tumbled down, could not move. But as luck would have it, he was able to hold the phone cord and pull it close enough to him, and he called the home health lady who normally comes and take care of him. It was a Saturday. She had her children at home. She was taking care of them. And he said, listen, I on the ground. I messed myself. I can't get up. Could you come help me, please? This was Saturday, but her next visit would have been Monday. So she had, out of the goodness of her heart, she didn't have any money to pay the taxi. She said, look, I will pay get the taxi. I will pay it when they get here. And she put her children in the taxi, went over him. You know what was her reward by the National Assistance Board? They fired her because she had a call on the Sunday, on the Saturday. Can we tell you? They fired her.
Okay, so before we proceed further, just give me a chance here just to make a couple of quick comments. This is like the ad, the advertising component. First, let me just apologize for the absence of, I think it's Marsha Hinds. She was scheduled to be on with us tonight, and unfortunately, she's unable to make it. So hopefully, she'll join us on Wednesday. So just express an apology to those of you that may have been expecting her, because the ad did carry that she was going to be here. We are hoping that Kemar is able to make it on, and also, Caswell, last night, and remember where you are because we're coming back to that. But last night when I arrived at Baxter's Road, I was overwhelmed by the beautification of the facility, the palms that were everywhere. It was absolutely beautiful because I love palms. Personally, I absolutely love palms. And I understand that they were graciously provided by a gentleman by the name of, let me make sure I get it right, Mark Giblin. And we want to commend and thank Mr. Giblin from Landmark Nursery. This is near Portville Sugar Factory, just a little way off on if you're going towards St. Lucie, towards St. Peter, I think it's just over on the right-hand side of the street, of the highway. And he donated the plants for to use last night. So those of you that enjoyed the view, the beautiful environment that you saw speaking from, we want to thank him so much for donating those plants. And we pray and hope that he will continue to do so, because I am anticipating, Caswell, I hope you can make it to Heather, you better get on a flight and come down and join us. And Kemar and others that I'm sure over time will step up onto the platform. But I'm looking forward to some authentic tours of the constituencies and parishes of Barbados and carrying this message that we shared on Sunday across the length and breadth of Barbados. And I'm going to make myself available for that, Caswell. I hope you will come along as well. But I just wanted to do, just to share those couple of points. And also, let me see if I can pull back up while you speak. I'm going to try to pull back up the ad for the march on Saturday. All right, so Caswell, you go ahead until at least Kemar comes in. Heather, you can go ahead as well, at least until Kemar comes in, and I'll just share this ad.
Because I was talking about the National Assistance Board, right? Now, rather than provide more home helpers to take care of the people that needs help, the government decided that they are going to have people to come into the houses and sit down and talk with the old people. Not clean them, not clean the house, call them companions. At one stage, they were paying them, I think $400 or $500 a week. I can't remember exactly what it was now. And they weren't taking national insurance. I'm not talking about, they were private contractors as well, because they said the old people wanted company. No, the old people wanted the food cooked. The old people wanted the house clean. So you hire somebody to just sit down and talk. I tell this government does not have an idea what to do. I'm going to come up with a harebrained scheme. They'll run with it. Now you have a whole set of companions who go to the houses, and then the companion have to wait until the actual home helper comes to help clean the place. When you should, and those companions could be home helpers to take away the burden from the and these people work hard, you know. I'm talking about these home helpers. You give them bus fare to get from location to location. They don't have enough vehicles that you can transport them from one district to the next. I understand that, but you give them bus fare and they can't get in a bus. So some of them walk, bum lifts, do what they have to do to get to the old people's home, and they take a lot of abuse because, again, some of the old people have dementia, right? And sometimes the old people say, I have my pension check there, and these people carry my check. And the home helper is verified, abused, and then eventually the old person find the check under the bed, under the pillow, all kind of stuff. And nobody ever tell them sorry. You know? So that is government strategy, rather than let the people stay in their homes and they will be taken care of. No, they're not being taken care of, because you can't take care of people 3 days a week, especially geriatrics. Like the man I told you about who messed himself on the way to the bathroom and tumbled down in it and couldn't get up. Or one of the home helpers, this is a couple of years back, out of the kindness of her heart, was persuaded to come and help that man on a day when she was not supposed to be there. And for that she got fired. I've never forgiven those people for that, because they were heartless.
Mm-hmm.
But we got too many people who sit down in the offices that don't do any real substantive work, and the people who do the work, they get the lowest pay and treated very badly as a result. But that's always the case. I was talking about the people at the plantation who actually plant the food and wheat and all kind of stuff. They were the lowest paid. The people now at these places who actually clean the old people and things, they're the lowest paid. And you know, some of them have to go and cook for those people during the week, you know. Some of these people, and something that bothers me. You have people who live in substantial homes, but they get home help, and they got family living in the house with them. And sometimes the family don't look at them. But other than the family do help. And people who really need the help can't get it, because all you gotta do in Barbados is not call a politician. You get people to clean your house for you on the home help scheme if you're old enough. Not that you need it, or not that you are indigent or anything like that. You get it done. It happens, and the home helpers see me and complain about it. That they have to go to houses and take care of houses, substantial properties, who have other people living in the house that can clean the house. But you know, you got people working in banks, and they got their granny there in the house, and they do not clean the house because the home helper can come and do it. And these are things that are known. It is basically corruption. But those are things that Olajan wouldn't know. I tell you, already Olajan will go there and make his report. He is scratching the surface. He's only scratching the surface of what's going on in Barbados. Poor fella. He likes to do these reports, and I think he enjoys doing them, and then nothing more, because nothing happens as a result. But that's another topic for another time. We need a government that is committed to taking care of the most vulnerable. If you look, and the thing is, I have seen where you had people going into the polyclinic at St. Philip, mosquitoes breeding in the building itself because the building was a construction site, and the fired the guy who was doing the refurbishing and left the building open. Water got in, all kinds of stuff got in. You got people inside there, and nobody thought to say, no, something could there, we can't put people in these conditions because the government does not care what happens. The only reason it got fixed because Unity Workers Union got involved and the matter then was dealt with. Same thing at the one in St. Peter. Some of the rooms had stench. We had fungus growing on the walls. 6 out of the 14 nurses were sick people with respiratory problems. And government knew about it and did nothing about it. Again, Unity Workers Union had to get involved and they do some measure of cleaning. You know? But we have administrators in the public service who have reached a pinnacle and they feel, well, I don't have to care about anybody below me now. Mind you, when they were passing through those positions, they were complaining, making the same complaints that are being made now, but they don't want to hear them now. You know, it's like give a fellow a bunch of keys. But they don't give you keys now, they give you a promotion and you would kill the people below you. That happens every day. I am tired of it. I see it. I remember one nurse went to the those nurses, one senior nurse in administration. Now she don't treat patients. She's in administration. When the nurses walk off the job, they had Ghanaian nurses working down there. They also came off the job. And she went and threatened them that if they don't go back, they can send them back to Ghana. But Ghana is just worse off than Barbados, so they didn't want to go back. So they had to go and do the work while the Belgians went home. She threatened them about not work if they don't go back to work, but their contracts. In other words, terminate their contracts and so send them back to Ghana. Those some of those people come out of Barbados because they're in dire straits up there, you know. But news was broken now that Ghana has defaulted to. Like I think the guy in Ghana, like he learned from Miss Motley, you know, he ain't paying any bills either. Because at least we teach people other things. Because Ghana now learn how to do what we have done already. But we have too many people, and the people that are suffering are the poor people. We build these facilities to take care of the poor, and you don't maintain them. You don't even want to go in them, but you got no choice. But
I think at the end of the day too, you know, Caswell, we really need a transformation in the paradigm of how we think in Barbados, even politically, across the whole entire spectrum of life in Barbados. We really need to have what I call, or what we call in our religious circle, paradigm shifts, where, you know, I observe the conduct and behavior of a lot of workers in the public sector. I had to be at a medical facility. Today is what, Monday? Yesterday, to pick up some medication for someone I know very well, for my son actually. And you know, when I actually was my term to be served, I went with the understanding of what the information I had was. And to be honest with you, the persons that dealt with me, I felt I was doing them something wrong. You know, I don't know how the process works. I don't know how the system goes. So I'm asking questions, and it was like I'm encroaching on your time. You know, it wasn't like this is what you're paid to do behind the window. This is what you should do, and this is how, you know. And I thought to myself, I thought we had a system of what was it called again? National Initiative on Service Excellence. And I thought it was a public sector program. And I left and I went to another location within the facility and got things rectified and came back. And I couldn't believe it was the same person, Caswell. And I mean, it wasn't that my approach was anything. It was like a Jekyll and Hyde. in the situation. And I must say, you know, that one of the things that we really need to change in Barbados is the kind of service we provide, especially in public, and I'm saying in the public environment, public sector, um, not the private sector, the public sector, because you know people feel, well, you know, I'm going to work to do the people work, and I can be how I like, and I don't have to I call myself any day. But it's decent and it's human to treat people with decency, and would to God that we could have some of those changes. Huh?
Yeah, you see,
Well,
if you say one, you will have to say the next. See, most public officers in Barbados today don't want to go to work and be treated the way they are treated.
so
And
you're
when
saying that they're the first customers then?
yeah, and when they get mistreated at work, sometimes after all this beating down, you could be so professional. Eventually, it wears you down, and it shows to the
Hmm.
service out there to other people,
That's very true.
right?
That's
Uh,
very true.
this morning alone, a nurse called me. She worked last night, came off this morning at 8 o'clock, and they tell you, well, today's your off day. No, I work today. It can't be my off day. And they're saying, well, other people do it. That is not the point. You are entitled to 2 off days. The off day cannot be there. You came off. You come off at 8 o'clock in the morning. That day can't be your off day. But now, how will that nurse feel being treated like that? And they have to go and to do that loving care to patients. All right? That is the thing. The same drug service thing you have. I have problems at a drug service because we have supervisory personnel who treating people who actually write reports for them, tell lies and telling lies on the people, and they say, well, look, you don't need the union. We can fix it. We can talk. You know, we can talk. You know, because they discover that the supervisor is a liar, and
Hmm. Hmm.
but the supervisor is a friend. So rather than deal with it, they want to hush it down
Yeah, yeah.
because and that poor officer that was working hard, who's been lied upon and mistreated,
Yeah.
will not get justice because they want to cover it down.
But you know,
And this is within the last two. This is within the last 2 weeks,
but
right?
Caswell.
Just give me one more. There's a system at the school today, just today. The principal can't get the timetable do properly. You know,
Mm.
so he ended up now with 2 teachers teaching the same class. And one bully teacher to say, well, you can do we call it some sort of joint teaching. I can't remember what they call team teaching or something like this nonsense. You know, they can't get the job done, so they harass other people. He can't get his done. And then they say, well, you know, because the other teacher don't know how to do this, so we are supposed to be. No, if you have a teacher in a school that don't know the job,
Hmm.
the other teacher is not the person to teach them. You are there to teach children. But then you're going to bully people because you want to get it done. We had a
Hmm.
fire at the
Hmm.
school here recently, well, last year. And it wasn't a big fire. And the principal denied that there was a fire. And the people who decided that they're going to complain about the fire, they're being mistreated. But when you know, it was in the lab. The lab reeking with gas all the time. Place can burn down, you know, because you can't got gas and you don't want to know about it. Because you're bringing people who know what they're doing to fix the gas and make
Hmm.
it work. And then the place start have a little fire. They managed to put it out. They didn't call the fire service. Because even at a public building, when there is a fire, even though you put it, you are called the public service, you are called the fire service, you know. Then call the fire service. The principal denied that there was a fire until the people produced pictures of what went down. And then he had a backtrack. But you know why he denied that fire? Because overnight then he managed to get the people come in and change the things and paint up and whatever they had to do. So there was like no fire. He was proven to be a liar because people had pictures of the aftermath of the fire that he didn't know people took pictures. So now he has to admit that there's a fire. And the people know who took the pictures are the villains. This is happening in
Mm.
Barbados today. So when you see
Wow.
public officers given bad service, it is because they are treated badly.
But you know, Caswell, in times when we're actually doing our customer service training, we always tell managers that the first customer is your staff. Because if your staff is not happy and satisfied, it's unlikely that that service is going to be translated out to the people. You know. Well, you know, a moment ago I saw Kemar there.
Yeah.
Heather was just about to ask you to bring him on, and I don't know if he's having some challenges with his internet. Um, but he's up next. So as soon as he comes in, we want to give him the
Yeah,
full gambit for the
I
next
will
few
give
minutes.
that as soon as it comes. You know, but I will
Right.
give
Yeah.
a scenario. We have a situation where I had to attend a disciplinary meeting this morning, and when the young lady told them who her representative was, they canceled the meeting and just maybe let's have a talk because they don't want to be exposed. So I can expose them, and that is not a one-off situation. You know, we have owners of prop businesses and managers of those businesses that treat people like dirt. One of the worst employers in Barbados, people take them as Ramnoy Sandy Lane, and they treat the workers down there like hell. And Sandy Lane has a great turnover of human resource managers because they when they do it to some of the Belgian human resource managers said no, we can't do that. So when they said we can't do that, they fire them. They had about 7 or 8 human resource managers in about 6 years. Because the Belgians said no, but you can't do that. They tell them so to the owners and thing and the expatriate managers. And so eventually they started out recruiting HR people from overseas. They brought one from Egypt. Yeah, they brought an HR manager who should be dealing with Barbados laws and all kind of stuff. He didn't even know Egyptian law, and he was down here trying to run a human resource department, right? Because of the way they treat people here. I don't want Kemar to drop out again. So while he
Yeah.
here,
Let's
I
get him on before
always I could
let's get
always
him on before he drops on.
I
Kemar,
I love to hear this.
welcome.
So
Yeah,
Welcome,
I would
Kemar,
love
to
to
the
hear him.
show.
Love to welcome
Good
to the
night,
show,
good night, good
Kemar.
night.
Good night.
Yeah,
Good
good
night.
night. I am here. Happy again to see you all. I had a great time on Sunday. Let me say that. Heather, I'm sorry you were not here, but you really missed a good. Um,
Everybody's
so,
saying so.
yes, yes.
I have to do
So
something.
I
I
look forward to the next
have to
one.
do something.
Well, Kemar,
Uh huh.
we've been waiting to hear what you have on your heart to share with us tonight. We know that you're such a wealth of information, knowledge. I think all of us are so really humbled to just sit and listen and learn from you. So please go right ahead and just share what is on your mind for the show tonight.
Hey. So again, again to the audience. Just want to thank everybody who came out to Roadside Parliament yesterday. It was really pleased to see you all. I went online and watched also, so I saw the online comments. We're close to 5,000 views already on the
Yes,
show.
yes.
So
Woo!
I
Yeah.
happy, happy, happy. Right. So what's on my mind tonight? Um, I read a newspaper and I saw that we were being warned about increases in oil prices, and uh, we saw recently that Barbados attempted to make some deals with Venezuela, and we
Mhm.
had
Mhm.
a person reading an article in the newspaper in the Nation making an argument for Barbados buying oil from Venezuela as it would be a cheaper source as opposed to sourcing it from the international countries. Uh, for some reason, every time some event happens internationally, Barbados is impacted by oil price increases, right? And I sometimes did not understand why that would be. Uh, so I did a little reading on it, and I realized that there's a lot of price markup from the government of Barbados' side as it relates to taxation on the importation of gas and diesel and fossil fuels into the country.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole lot of red tape in the system, along with whatever price gouging, allows Barbadians to be overcharged for gas. Right? We recently signed a deal with Trinidad fishing, some type of fishing conversation, and they agreed to allow Trinidad to extract gas, natural gas from Barbados, which will then be shipped to Trinidad, and then we have to repurchase it from Trinidad, although it originated in Barbados. And we gave Trinidad significantly more rights to extract oil and gas off the coast of Barbados from both sides, from our side and the Trinidadian side. So we had something called the Petro-Caribbean deal. This is when ONAF was in power. We could have benefited from buying oil directly from Venezuela at a really cheap price, which would have substantially cut Barbados's fuel import bill. But for some reason, the deal did not go through. I can remember David Commission being a champion of having deep bilateral relationships with Venezuela as it relates to purchasing oil. And David Commission was actually cursing ONAF for not accepting that Petro-Caribbean deal. So they say there are reasons for the high oil prices in Barbados that does not have anything to do with international shocks, but more the mechanism that the governments have set up, which allow them to benefit lucratively on top of the backs of the people. Because gas, like water, like electricity, are all necessities. And the government owning the oil terminal is the main importer of fuel in Barbados. So we need to. I'm sorry I don't have the details here to explain the markup. But next time we come on the show, we'll have that information so you can see where the oil originates from and the different levels of purchasing that these barrels of oil, which we have to buy in US currency, by the way, which is depleting our foreign exchange yearly, by the way. But we have to drive cars on the road. We have to run factories. We have to run the country. So I don't understand how a country like Barbados was dependent on oil, fuel, and gas to run. Speaking about climate change, still approving oil deals for itself to drill oil off Barbados. I mean, as we speak, there's more negotiations going on to issue contracts to international companies to drill oil off Barbados. There's a company called BHP who has the contracts to drill oil off Barbados right now. So there are things happening as it relates to Barbados finding alternative fuel sources so that we could reduce the price of oil. Right? But for the life of me, again, and it's written we need proper diplomats. We need to renegotiate the way we buy oil and gas from the international community, because every couple of years they're saying that our prices have to go up, and every time they have to go up, the people have to pay for that increase. And sometimes you have oil selling for upwards to $150 a barrel. Right? Every prime minister we've had to go through a crisis of oil prices. And oil crisis usually topple governments. Because, as I said, fuel is in everything. So if the price of fuel is high, the general prices in the economy will be high to reflect that price increase. So you hear the governor of the central bank constantly saying Barbados benefits from something called the inflation dividend. And the inflation dividend is the high levels of tax revenue they're collected from retail prices in the economy. So prices on oil, gas, electricity, water, clothing, housing, tourism. The high prices in there that people are paying, and as taxation is charged as a percentage of the price. Every time the price go up, taxation increases, and therefore tax collection for the government increases. And as I said before, this government has collected the highest levels of tax revenue ever in the history of any Barbados administration we've had in this country, ever. Eh, So the government does not want the oil prices to come down really because they benefit a lot, significantly, in revenues from high oil prices in Barbados. Uh, so as long as the foreign exchange is available, and that's why we borrowed heavily from the IMF to top it up, because we used foreign exchange to buy imported goods, not just oil and gas, but all of the same supermarket goods you see in the shelf, like the 10 different flavors of corned beef, the 10 different types of sliced ham, 10 different types of ketchup, all these different brands you see, our foreign exchange goes into buying that. So our foreign exchange is depleted yearly between oil and gas and what the merchants use to purchase supermarket and other goods that we may use in the general economy. So if we do not tackle this problem, because this, let's say, this stretches any administration, if we don't tackle this problem to lower the cost to import fuel in Barbados, that's one of the ways that we will be addicted to IMF financing, because they can't stop buying fuel. They have to buy fuel, and they will lend you the money to buy fuel, regardless of how much debt you're going, because they know, as it relates to countries, they could put taxes on the respective things in Barbados to recollect those funds. So we feel in our renewable energy, they can't get it up and running. You heard the minister energy saying that government is not meeting their renewable energy goals, so they can't get the solar up, they can't get the wind energy up. No matter how the money in the board of climate change, it is not working. And governments continue to pay every month, every year, some of the highest levels of usage of electricity and water and gas. A lot of it in wastage, by the way. But as long as the foreign exchange, as I said, as long as the foreign exchange is available and they could manipulate the price to jack it up so that they benefit from increased tax revenues, that's the situation that we will be caught in until we get persons or a government who's willing to reverse that.
So, Kemar, are you saying that the country would be better off if we entered into an oil purchase agreement with Venezuela?
Yes, we
And
would.
right now, there is a situation here in the US where there are a lot of asylum seekers coming over the southern border, traveling. Most of them are traveling from Venezuela. So if everybody is trying to leave Venezuela, what impact would that have on the industry there? Or do you know if it is having an impact on the industry there?
We talking that's on a micro level. That's a problem for the Venezuelan government to figure out, right? Um, as long as there's a natural resource called oil in the ground, you will find vultures lurking, no matter how small it is. So even if they have to bring in workers from over and abroad, which is most of the international oil giants are either European companies or US companies. And that's why you see a lot of these geopolitical wars happening all over the world because of oil. That's
Okay.
why America invaded some countries across the eastern side of the world over oil.
And do you have any idea about the differentials in price between that which Venezuela is selling and then what the government can get on the international market?
Well, I can't quote the exact price for you that the government, because we don't even know if there was or what was discussed between. We saw tourism deals, so that's the only thing that we could speak to factually in black and white.
Right.
But hypothetically speaking, if the government was discussing an arrangement with Venezuela, obviously it has to be more lucrative for us to negotiate than buying from the traditional sources. It would be I would hate to think that our government will be going to negotiate a deal that is worse than the one that we're locked into right now, right? uh, but you never know. You never know. So that was a very good question. But in all fairness, uh, Venezuela did offer us, especially on the Petro Caribbean deal, they did offer us a significantly lower price uh, than what was out there. And then Barbados started doing something called um, futures or trading oil in futures. So, as you know, oil prices fluctuate. So,
Yes.
what was to buy or lock in a price? So, if the price was at 80, the government would enter into a contract with the giant to have that price over the next 4 or 5 years without fluctuation. So their contract would say they would pay 80 for the next 5 years, regardless of whatever price fluctuates internationally to protect itself from the ravages of the market, the up and down sliding. The problem with that is that the price necessarily did not go up, the price went down. So if you were paying $80 a barrel, the international prices dropped to 40. So you were paying double the price that you could have got. You could have been paying half price, but we got locked into contracts in terms of buying oil for one price, and the world market dropped, and we could not benefit from that drop in international prices. We were locked into the original contract that we had.
So then getting into a contract is really speculative if it depends on external factors, since the price can't be controlled solely on your agreement. So you have to be very careful there.
Yeah.
What
Well,
I want to say to you
so,
is this. Venezuela exports oil to the United States. The oil is not, there's no sanction on the oil. United States happens to be one of the biggest hypocrites anywhere in the world, you know. And like for instance, Cuba, they have an embargo on Cuba from the 60s. But when Cuba developed veterinary products that would save their animals in there, they lift the embargo so they can buy the medicines for their farm animals out there. Their cattle were dying, and Cuba had developed a vaccine or whatever it was, and they got it. So I don't worry about America and people coming in there. That is more, that ain't got nothing to do with oil. That has to do with America controlling people, because remember Chavez had tried to pull Venezuela away from America, and the Americans can't have that. So this is more to deal with, and he got sanctioned, and the country got sanctioned, but they didn't sanction with the oil. America still want the oil. I was looking here, so I know to see it, how much oil America is one of the biggest importers of Venezuelan oil. So don't worry about it. We could get some too. You see, the deal with Petro-Caribbean, like St. Vincent and a lot of those other countries rushed in and they did that deal. But we had Kevin Simpson and Barbados. Nobody wanted to to bother. You know, Kevin Simpson was Saul, remember? So, and he was a contributor in a lot of things in Barbados. So we protected them. We protected the Barbados National Oil, what they call the big tank that helped there to put the oil in, Oil Terminal Limited. So it is not about what is good for us. It is what will make the most money for the government. Because as I told you, government has an insatiable appetite. No, they will want to get involved with Petro-Carib because things are so bad now. But we could have saved billions if we had gone on and signed on to Petro-Carib when Venezuela and these other, I'm not Venezuela, but when St. Vincent and these other Caribbean countries joined on. No, but we wouldn't want to do that. We wanted to maintain our friendships, our brave people, and to make sure that they stay rich and the poor people in Barbados get poor. This is what politics in Barbados is about. And I'm not talking about from A, B, or D. Now we're talking about all of them. They have sacred cows in Barbados that you can't touch. And Venezuela's giving us cheaper oil would have made some of those people make less profit. Not that they would not make less profit. Trust me when I tell you that when you put $10 in a gas and a tank of gas and a gas tank, you put more taxes in that tank than gas, you know. And you can't go too far on it. But that is what we have cultivated because we want to maintain friendships as opposed to doing what is best for this country. We need a, for the extend this paradigm shift thing, we need a whole new paradigm shift away from the corrupt political system that we have right now. Because what they do, they just change from one group to the next with no philosophy. If you look at countries around the world, the political parties are different. We got two of the same. They philosophical change. That's where you can get people jumping from one into the next, and without any adjustment. We need to change the way we do business in Barbados. And I suspect last night, because I got some comments, and this was not my idea. I agreed to it, that we will have the people asking questions to a panel after the meeting. Or I was told that was innovative and it should be replicated, and we should get the Christ Church, and we should get the St. Philip, and all kinds of here today. So maybe what we are doing here might be leading the way or showing them the way. And when we do it, politicians might be forced to do it too. And that will be a change in the way we do business in Barbados, because people go to political meetings to hear entertainment, and then they go down home and laugh and feel good about it. But they don't learn anything. They get entertained. No, we are educating people. And then if you don't understand everything that we said, or you got any queries, we are showing you how to do that we can respond to you. I think that is the way that it got to continue. If Marsha Weeks sure is responsible for that, we must thank her. Because trust me when I tell you, it wasn't my idea. I just went along with it. And I'm happy that I did.
Me too. You know, Caswell, I would say this, that we talk about these meetings. I was actually sitting the other day thinking, why can't we have a constituency meeting for the constituency? Not a Barbados Labour Party constituency meeting, not a Democratic Labour Party constituency meeting, a constituency meeting for St. George North and St. George South. Let everybody, D, B, X, Q, P, A, T, come to that meeting where people are not in an environment where they feel threatened, intimidated, fearful, or anything of the sort. They can come and they can ask their questions, but that's what we provided last night, We provided a non-threatening environment where we had people who spoke, and then the platform was open for persons to ask questions, to make comments, to make contributions, and it was non-partisan. That is what we need in all 30 of our constituencies, and where government ministers would be required to attend. and answer the concerns and questions that we, the Barbadian public, have. Where you are not going to come and pontificate your policies, you're going to come and listen to what the people have to say. Yeah, you can make an introduction if you want to do that, which we did last night. We each of us had a few minutes to make a presentation. At the end of that time, the table was set, we sat there, and people were allowed to ask questions and to make their comments. And I believe that that is of great value in our country right now. It is because anybody that seems to think that the only think tanks in Barbados sit in Parliament are a bunch of idiots. There are think tanks all over this country, brilliant people, and not all of them have degrees. A lot of them just have downright common sense. The other day I was talking with a contractor concerning the roof of my mother's house. And he said to me, I looked at him and I said, you know, the old people knew what they were doing a roof at 45-degree angles. But my God, you're going to need an engineering degree to know that. Our parents didn't have an engineering degree. But when they built our houses with the gable roof, I think it is, 45-degree angle. Today you got houses built with 25-degree angle. A little wind blow, the roof gone. They didn't have degrees. And so all the people who have degrees, God bless them, have nothing against them, but don't look down on the people who don't have degrees because they have something to contribute. And that is what governments, both parties, are afraid to engage because there are brilliant people out there that are going to put things to them that they are going to have to answer and they don't have the answers for it.
Kemar, do you have any response? There was someone here named Charles that was asking why we're not investing in the Guyana oil find.
Yeah. Well, the issue with the Guyanese oil find is a deeper issue. The Guyanese government at the time, which was it was called the APNO AFC coalition, that government that was the government who oversaw the oil find in Guyana. However, in negotiating the contracts for the deal with ExxonMobil, which is the large oil company who got the contracts to drill the oil in Guyana, they signed that the Guyanese government will get 2% of the royalties of all of the oil that was dug from Guyana. 2%. Right?
Raping the country again, just like they did Africa.
You have a private oil company, big international oil company like Exxon, having the rights to these oil wells for X amount of years, long periods of time, at 2% in royalties. So the deal to the Guyanese people was unrighteous. So my thing here is I would support the idea if Barbados could invest in Guyana, but the only way I see Barbados investing in Guyana is through the provision of services, financial services, accounting services, legal services. Our education system is top tier. I mean, there's a lot of bright people in Guyana too, but I see Guyana becoming a top performer in CXC and CAPE and all of these types of exams. But as it relates to the development of education system, Barbados' system is far more developed than Guyana's. And I went to one or two conferences where they were suggesting Barbadian professionals, they say lawyers, doctors, teachers, to migrate to Guyana, as Guyana will now become the new Dubai of the Caribbean because of the new oil wealth or oil find. But a lot of persons are not aware of the contracts surrounding the ownership or the rights to that oil, not realizing that ExxonMobil has, if not all, almost control over the wealth of the Guyanese oil. So I would not be surprised to hear, because I see our Prime Minister always in Guyana. There are even reports that a plane crashed with our Prime Minister on it in Guyana, which was later denied. But persons took pictures and said that they saw it. So there is room for Barbados partnering with Guyana, as traditionally we saw a lot of Guyanese, and we still have a lot of Guyanese coming to Barbados, and vice versa. So we have good connection, but it is what the government is doing with that connection, and it is what our private sector can do in terms of positioning itself to benefit however it can uh, in partnership with Guyana as it relates to the oil. But if there's no forward direction from the government level, we have an ambassador for CARICOM, which is Commission. But I've never really heard anything from Commission directly speaking to Guyana. We imported Guyanese houses, steel frame houses, and we got a couple of other things, but we never really developed a serious bilateral trade relationship with Guyana. Because Guyana was considered to be one of the more poor countries, and they are in that state because of an IMF program and a devaluation of the dollar. So a lot of persons don't know that the Guyanese dollar was paired to the British pound, and the Guyanese dollar was had a lot of strength. But true to
He dropped off. I think he has dropped off.
Yeah, we seem to have lost him.
Let me tell you something, though. I was just checking Bloomberg, August 25th this year. U.S. imports 150,000 barrels of crude from Venezuela a day.
Who does?
United States.
150,000.
And they're one of the richest, and they're one of the major oil producers in the world. Anyhow, go ahead. I ain't gonna get into that.
It says U.S. import, and they're now predicting that it can surge to 1.1 million if they do some of these sanctions. So while Venezuela is still under sanctions by the United States have to keep their strategic reserve up, because the United States is not using their oil. They can use your reservoirs and keep theirs in reserve, and that's what is happening. So, and even when the president allows you to take some from the strategic reserve to keep the prices down, they can put it back when they get there. So let me keep out of these politics. Like the prime minister, I saw the prime minister telling Putin to battle the Ukraine. You know, I'm no ready to hear her speak to Hamas. You know, but I didn't see her yet, so I was wondering why I should do it yet. The problem is that we should keep out of these international controversies and do what is best for the people of Barbados. We too are too small. One plane load of Marines will come and take over Barbados. We ain't got the strength to fight an international war in the body. So mind our own business. You know, you gotta mind your business. And that is what is not happening here. Anyhow, it's almost 10 o'clock, and I wanted to speak to something that I started last week, if you don't mind, Freddie.
Now go right ahead. At least until you can. Is Kemar back in yet? Have you got him back in?
No, he's not back in. No. Go ahead.
Wait a minute. I see him there. Hold on. Yeah, he's here.
He's here.
Let me see if I can add him and see. Kemar, you're hearing us? Right, Kemar, are you?
No, he's not.
All right, go ahead, Caswell. At least until we can get him back. Hopefully, we can get those issues rectified.
I was talking about, and it was just before the end of one of the shows. I was talking about what the banks are doing to relatives of deceased persons. A person dies and leaves money in the bank. There are a number of ways that you can get that money. One, you can go to court and get letters of administration. If the person does not leave a will, letters of administration. If they leave a will, the executor can apply for letters testamentary. Both will get the same result. It is just that one is written and one without a will. Now, when you get these letters of administration or letters testamentary, whatever they are, you go to the bank and you say, I have a document from the court giving me the right to operate this man's account. The banks, and in some instances, are refusing to accept letters of administration from the banks. And said, but one, no, we have to take it to our legal department. I recently had an experience where I went with a relative to go to the bank, and they said they're going to let the lawyer look at it. I said, let me tell you something. Is this the first time that you had a deceased client, a deceased account holder? This is foolishness. You have a document from the Supreme Court of Barbados that you're refusing to acknowledge, and it comes with a seal. It isn't a rubber stamp; it's a seal where you imprint on the paper the seal of the Supreme Court, and you can feel it. And they give people all the run around, and then they tell you that when you finally get through that problem, when they do delay you and delay you and delay you, you have access to the money. Almost. Because they then say that you have to open up what they call an estate account. No. If you are given a document from the court that says that you can operate this man's account as if he were doing it, that's what letters of administration and letters testamentary do. But the banks now say you have to open another account and transfer the money to that account so that they can make a little bit of money off of those accounts. And while people are going through this nonsense, they are waiting for the monies of their relatives. Government refuses to do anything about it because I don't know why. But I know that there is also another way that you can get the money from the bank. If the person dies and they leave a small estate is $15,000 or less. The public trustee, who, by the way, is the Solicitor General of Barbados, can administer that estate. So you wouldn't have to incur all these legal fees and all kind of stuff just to get $15,000. By the time you get $15,000 or $7,000 or $8,000, boy, left in the bank, and with the advertising in the newspaper and the legal fees, you don't get none. So this is this facility that very many people do not know about. That is public. The Solicitor General has the power as public trustee to administer small estates. Mind you, what the Solicitor General can also do, and I say she because the current Solicitor General is a woman. What she can also do is, if they leave money in the bank, don't care how much money it is, and you want money to pay the funeral bill, the public trustee can give the person who paid the bill or who is responsible for the bill a document that they can take to the bank and to pay that bill. Mind you, I've seen the banks now going into the system with the undertakers and paying the undertakers from the people's account, like as they have the power to do so, they don't. It is the Solicitor General is the only body, until there's letters of administration or letters testamentary, the only person in Barbados who can go into an account in Barbados is the Solicitor General, and who is functioning as public trustee in that capacity. But what I want to advocate for today is that the small estates that the Solicitor General and the public trustee was supposed to administer, it's supposed to be $15,000 or less. $15,000 was set in 1948. That was the value of a small estate. By now, this figure should have been changed. But you know why they're changing it? because the people in Parliament who make these laws and who can pass them, who change them, were mostly lawyers. And if the person has $15,001, you got to go to a lawyer to get access to that money. And if you got 3 children, that money got divided in 3, you ain't got the money. When legal fees taken out. So the $15,000 small estate that the Solicitor General should, I keep saying Solicitor General, but it is the public trustee, that the public trustee can administer is $15,000 if the estate is less than $15,000. But in 1940, a small estate was $15,000. In 2023, it can't be $15,000 anymore. So government should have changed this figure so as to assist poor people to have access to the money without losing all in legal fees when the lawyers start to operate. Because by the time you and I don't want to put lawyers out of business, but I certainly don't want to make sure there's a situation where a parent dies and leave a few dollars in the bank and the lawyer get most. That don't make sense. So I'm hoping the government will see the wisdom of increasing the value of a small estate from $15,000, because as I said, that figure was set in 1948. That was the value of a small estate in 1948, $15,000. The solicitor, the public trustee, does not know do that business, because I used to do it when I worked there. But that was back in the 1980s. And I was the clerk that dealt with the paperwork mostly. But I was the only clerk that dealt with that paperwork. So I'm very familiar with the operations of the public trustee. And I know that a lot of people, because the government does not put, somebody says $191,095.02 is the value of $15,000 for 48 days. So good. Well, let me say $200,000. That should be a value of a small estate. That makes more sense. But what I'm saying to you is that government doing that, raising the value to over $100,000, will be taking care of the people who are most vulnerable. Because let's say my father had left $100,000 in the bank, but it don't make no sense. We're going through a lot of kind of fancy thing because there are 15 of us. There were 15 of us. So you imagine it ain't gonna be no money to get anybody anything. So these small estates, where when the lawyer get his hands on this money, he can get more of that than any of the beneficiaries. So we need to start looking out for the poorest of the poor, people who can't afford it, and allow those people to at least enjoy the benefits of their relatives when they pass on, rather than go through the lawyer's hands, where the lawyers decide that they're gonna get more money. And I tell you something, it's a great racket, Most things in Barbados, when it comes to dealing with lawyers, have become a big racket. I'll give an example. In England, we have a system where you can purchase your own land and do your own paperwork, or you can hire what they call a conveyancer. A conveyancer is not a lawyer. He is a fellow who can do conveyancing work, and he charges far less than what a solicitor would charge, because in England they use solicitors to do that type of work.
So the two are still separate in the UK, solicitors and attorney.
And barrister. But the solicitor charges a lot more. And we fashion our legal system based on what they do in England. And this was going on since 1985, where you can have a conveyancer to do your conveyancing for you as opposed to a lawyer. Because what happens in Barbados is ridiculous. If you are selling a piece of land for $100,000, and you are selling one for $10 million, you are going to do the same amount of paperwork. It's not going to be anything less or anything more. You still got to do all the searches. You still got to do, so you're going to do the same amount of work, but the kind of money that you will charge on 10 million is astronomical when you compare it to what you will pay on the $100,000. Right? So you see, but what the lawyers will argue is that if they make a mistake, they got to be compensated in case they make a mistake. You know, they got to pay compensation or whatever else it is. That is rubbish. That is an insurable risk. You can buy insurance for almost anything right now. And one of the things that you should buy insurance for is if you do malpractice. They got malpractice when the doctor cut off the wrong foot, as have happened in Barbados. You know, I know a guy who lost his foot, and when he went for appendix, they cut off the foot instead. But that's another story for another time. So what we need to do is to curtail some of these avaricious people who charge exorbitant money from poor people who can't afford it. It seems as though some of them feel like they're gonna get rich over every transaction that they do, and they charge you the kind of money that some people say, "Man, I'm not even bothering." But yes, this person is it for these small estates? If the estate is under $15,000, it is not mandatory because you can go to the Solicitor General, to the public trustee. But the public trustee now declines to do that type of work. When it's their function, or does the law provide for them to do that? But the law also provides that they can refuse. But why refuse?
Caswell, just permit me to cross you a minute because we're winding down. Just got about 4 minutes left, and I just heard Kemar probably trying to interject into what you were saying there. Kemar, you can speak now.
Yeah, I was saying to Caswell that
hearing you.
But I am a licensed real estate agent in Barbados, by the way. So in doing real estate transactions, you have to have an attorney to complete the transaction. There are real estate brokers. I am not a broker, just an agent, but there are brokers who have a little more authority to draft contracts and draft documents in terms of the transaction, but still you need the attorney, and there are sliding scales in terms of fees that agents and brokers will charge, but most of the legal fees are usually like 10%. So the attorneys do the searches in terms of the titles, the deeds, the search to see if there are outstanding bills, like bills on water, bills on the house. Now the attorneys do that type of work on the transactions. But they're saying that the reason for that is to ensure that the transaction meet the legal threshold of Barbados as it relates to purchasing lands, right? You can't do
He has dropped off again.
Yeah, it seems that Flo is attacking Kemar. But we just have a couple more minutes, literally a couple minutes, less than a couple minutes actually, for the program tonight. And I don't know if we can take this opportunity, Caswell, for you to make any brief closing remarks, and then Heather yourself. I know you sat quietly there, listening to so much. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna change it, Caswell, if that's okay with you, ladies first, because we still have a little chivalry left in the world. And Heather, any closing remarks you may have, and then Caswell yourself, and we will curtail the program. We won't keep to our allocated time as much as possible. While you're speaking, I'll just put up the ad.
Yes. When we started the program, we were talking about agriculture, and one thought that I had was that perhaps coming out of this group that we could form a cooperative or something of the like to do our own importation, our own shipping and importation of foodstuffs in Barbados to make it cheaper for everyone. And to me, that is something that can be done, or it should have been done a long time ago. Instead of depending on the merchants, that we should do something for ourselves instead of just being consumers. We should try to become our own importers and owners of a business for the people, finally for the people. And to me, that is something that is workable. We should explore it some more in this group. And again, I want to thank everybody for attending the Roadside Parliament yesterday, and as well as the persons who were bold enough to step forward and ask questions. Because remember that we are pioneers at this, and your stepping forward would give more people a thrust to come forward next time and stand up to be. So you are our bold ones, and we're depending on you to empower other people. That's my little speech for tonight.
Well, my speech is going to be very short then, because I was going to concentrate on thanking those people, not only came out, but the people who volunteered, who helped us, and the people who did the magic together on the internet and all kind of stuff. You'll be surprised that we had a good show. I understand from people who watched on the internet, it was pretty good, and this is what we used to get us on the internet. You know, it was fantastic. I I really appreciate the technology and stuff that was going. Like me, I was just I'm a motor. I talk. I got people do that kind of fancy thing in the background. So I want to thank those people who supported us and who made sure that we got our message out. You know, we had some volunteers. I also want to thank them, because people like get that there were people working behind the scenes to get this thing off the ground and get it going well. All I had to do was to talk. You know, I didn't. God mind you, I couldn't handle the equipment, so basically I would have been the thing would have burned. So I want to thank them from the bottom of my heart, and I want more people to realize that this is an effort, a voluntary effort. The people you see out there, they are not being salaried, are not even stipend. They are doing this because they believe in what they're doing, and they believe it is good for Barbados. As a matter of fact, it might be the only group in Barbados working on the scene right now that thinks that the interest of Barbados should come first. So I want to commend those, and I cannot help but commend Marsha, because Marsha is doing an excellent job.
So true.
Helping, you know, I will never forget her, and I will always praise her for what she is doing. And I know it takes a toll on her, because this she is doing this in the side of, aside from doing her own business, she has to take time out to do this. So she's a tower of strength, and I'm trying to keep up with her. You know, so thank you, Marcia. Thanks, Freddie. Thanks, Heather. Thanks, Kemar. You know, we are looking forward to see more people coming forward and helping us. You know, because this is for you. Good night, everybody, and I will see you next time.
Thank you so much, Caswell. And just to add my 2 cents worth, I really want to join you in commending Marcia for this, not only this tremendous show, but for coordinating and facilitating the public meeting we had last night. It was an absolute expression of excellence, really. Even the environment layout, the excellent speeches by yourself and Kemar, and the interaction that we had, which is innovative to some degree, because you don't have that type of an interaction at a political style meeting. You might have it at a town hall or constituency meeting. And I'm certainly looking forward to being a part of many more of those types of meetings, around the country. But I do want to thank all of the support team and all of the people that came out as well, and thank the people that were online and shared. And the more you share, I really want to encourage you to share the links when they come out. Share as many times as you can. Facebook, I think when you go Facebook, it goes Instagram and other things. I don't know all the technological stuff, but please share. And we thank you, all of you that have been on this show, even tonight, and come on every Monday, every Wednesday, every Friday with your comments. We do see a lot of the comments. We can't always reference all of them, but we put some up on the screen for you. But we thank you for all of the comments, even the derogatory ones and the ones that come out and talk a lot about a lot of nonsense. We thank you for that too, because it helps us to stay focused and to be sharp about what we do. So we thank you for being there too. Thank all of you who are faithful. We had over 400 people tonight. We thank you for being here and being a part of us. And I personally want to thank Marcia for giving me the opportunity to be host together with Heather, even though she's so far away from us. Yet we feel like you're right next door. So thank you so much for allowing me to be here in the forum with you, Heather. We just want to say good night to all of you. Thank you for being here again tonight. God bless you and have a great, great evening. Above all, rest well. Know that the good Lord above is watching out for you and He protects you through the whole night. God bless. Have a great night.
Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Night. See you.